Hello, word nerds. Welcome to another episode of The Dictionary. It's my podcast. I just recorded some intros and outros for my other podcast, which is called When I'm High, which is all about how cannabis affects you. So I think my voice is all nice and warmed up, like velvet. Not really. Okay, so the first word is bill. It's the second form. This is definitely half this episode or more is going to be bill. This one is an intransitive verb from 1584. 1, to touch and rub bill to bill. That's interesting. Maybe that's something ducks do. Number 2, to caress affectionately, as in billing and cooing. All right, I feel like this took a turn. This is a little weird. We are going to move on to the third form of bill, which is a noun from the 14th century. 1, a weapon in use up to the 18th century that consists of a long staff ending in a hook-shaped blade. And then number 2, the synonym is bill hook. This is from the Old English bill, which means sword, akin to the Old High German bill, which means pickaxe. Next is the fourth form of bill. It is a noun. This one is long. Let's see. This is a noun from the 14th century. 1, an itemized list or a statement of particulars, as a list of materials or of members of a ship's crew. Number 2, a written document or note. Number 3 is obsolete, a formal petition. 4a, an itemized account of the separate cost of goods sold, services performed, or work done. Synonym is invoice. Is it invoice or invoice? Now we have 4b, an amount expended or owed. 4c, a statement of charges for food or drink. Synonym is check. 5a, a written or printed advertisement posted or otherwise distributed to announce an event of interest to the public. That sentence got long. I got distracted. Especially an announcement of a theatrical entertainment. 5b, a programmed presentation as a motion picture, play, or concert. That's why they call it the playbill, that little booklet you get. Number 6, a draft of a law presented to a legislature for enactment. Also, the law itself. Oh, well, I'm going to have to put in a clip of, that song, not the Conjunction Junction, it's the How a Bill is Made song from Schoolhouse Rocks. That's what it's called.
I'm just a bill, yes, I'm only a bill, and I'm sitting here on Capitol Hill.
As in the GI Bill. Number 7, a declaration in writing stating a wrong, a complainant has suffered. Is it complainant or complaint? Complainant. Maybe that's the one who's doing the complaining. I don't think I've heard that word. A wrong a complainant has suffered from a defendant or stating a breach money. Did that sentence not make sense, or is that just me? Number 8. Breach. Oh, because I skipped a line, but that still was weird. Or stating a breach of law by some person. That made more sense. As in a bill of complaint. 8a, a piece of paper money. 8b, an individual or commercial note. As in bills receivable. 8c, slang. $100. I want to get them bills. I am such a nerd. Fill the bill or fit the bill means to be exactly what is needed or be suitable. Now we have the fifth form of bill. It is a transitive verb from the 14th century. 1a, to enter in an accounting system. Prepare a bill of. As in charges. Not as in charges, but charges is an example. 1b, to submit a bill of charges to. 1c, to enter as freight in a waybill. 1d, to issue a bill of lading to or for. Lading? Lading? Number 2, to announce as a performance, especially by posters or placards. Number 3, synonyms are advertise and promote, as in, the book is billed as a report. That is from P.G. Altbach. Billable is an adjective. Now we have billabong, one word, noun from 1861. Number 1 is Australian. we have 1A first, a blind channel leading out from a river. 1B, a usually dry steam bed that is filled seasonally. Number 2 is also Australian. I don't know why. I guess they have to specify which version of English. They couldn't say it just at the beginning of the word. Okay, number 2, a backwater forming a stagnant pool. Why did the company Billabong decide to use Billabong as their name? I wonder why. There must be a story there. If any of you are from Billabong, please send me a message and let me know. This is from a Wiradjuri word. Wiradjuri is an Australian Aboriginal language of central New South Wales. We just had one of these not that long ago, I think. And that Wiradjuri word is Billabong, B-I-L-A-B-A, and then it has a weird N. It's the same N that they use in the pronunciation guide. The right leg of the N sort of curves under itself a little bit, and that's the pronunciation N-G. Like Anna Ang, which is a They Might Be Giant song. Now we have the last word of the episode, billboard. Just normal, spelled the normal way. It is the first form. Noun from 1851. A flat surface as of a panel, wall, or fence on which bills are posted. Specifically, a large panel designed to carry outdoor advertising. Now we have the second form of billboard, transitive verb from 1950, to promote by a conspicuous display on or as if on a billboard. Well, I'm going to have to pick Billabong as the word of the episode because it was the only one that was different in some way, and it's an Australian Aboriginal word of the language I've never heard of course, because I don't know anything about the Aborigines. And so, yeah, and it's also Australia, which is amazing. Okay, that is it for this episode. It was surprisingly short. Thank you very much for listening. This has been Spencer dispensing information, because that's my name. Goodbye. Hello, word nerds, and welcome to this very special episode of the podcast called The Dictionary. This episode is special because I have two guests on. They are Dave and Ethan of, now hopefully I get this correct, Dave and Ethan's 2,000-inch Weird Al podcast. Do I have that right?
That's right.
Awesome.
We tried to make the name as difficult as possible for people to recite.
You did a good job. I heard, I think in your most recent episode, that you had a whole bunch of other possible titles. Could you give me a couple of those old titles that weren't used? Or are they too embarrassing?
No, I know we had one where we were going to be next to a noisy ice machine. I know that was one.
I remember one of the worst ones we came up with, of course, a reference to a Weird Al song was "Don't download this podcast." So if people really listened to us, they wouldn't be listening to us. So glad we didn't go with that one.
Well, we should probably get to the official bios. If you guys couldn't tell, they are the hosts of a Weird Al podcast. I'm pretty sure I've mentioned them in past episodes because I'm a big fan of Weird Al, and of course They Might Be Giants. I've mentioned some They Might Be Giants podcasts as well. But why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself so the people can learn a little bit more about you?
Sure. Let me just tell you a little bit about our podcast first. So this is Dave, right? And so Ethan and I, we're big Weird Al fans, and we had this idea for this podcast where one night we were on the phone, I think like 3 o'clock in the morning, just talking about Weird Al, and we're like, we have to get this out to other Weird Al fans. So it was a natural progression that we started up a podcast. And we have these great conversations where we interview a lot of people that are connected to Weird Al. Every one of our guests somehow has a connection to Weird Al. And we've had some great guests on. We've had on the band Portugal the Man.
We even interviewed Mr. Lawrence. He's the voice of Plankton on SpongeBob, or Filbert on Rocko's Modern Life. And people may be like, what's his connection to Weird Al? Well, he drew the cover art for Weird Al's Food album. So, you know, we're trying to find these really unique connections. And we've had everyone from members of the band to Al's personal hair and makeup stylist. So we really run the gambit of all sorts of different varieties of Weird Al people. And
plus a guy who was in the UHF movie for 8 seconds.
We talked to a guy in the film UHF for 8 seconds for over 20 minutes. So we like to talk and we like to get every last detail out because we are super fans of Weird Al, and everything about Weird Al is something that we want to know and share with our listeners.
And the fans definitely want to know.
I like to say that we leave like no stone uncovered here because we'll, like you said, we will go down from, Chris Ballou from Presidents of the United States of America, who had one of his songs parodied by Weird Al, all the way down to Al's hairstylist. So there's nobody with any connection to Weird Al that we will not touch on this podcast.
That's awesome. And I also understand that I think superfan might be sort of an understatement. You both are huge collectors as well.
Let me tell you a little bit about Ethan. So Ethan's my co-host, and he's got a pretty impressive Weird Al collection, but he's also known for being a stand-up comedian, and was a host of a comedy radio show for 8 years, and he even was a guest on the Howard Stern show.
That's pretty impressive. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think you're the first person I know who's been a guest on the Howard Stern show. I'll have to ask you more about that later.
Sure. Getting to do a podcast with Dave is quite an honor. Anyone who is a Weird Al superfan, if they are a super fan, like this is almost a litmus test, they probably know who Dave is already. Dave is known in the Weird Al fan community for his Weird Al tattoos on both of his legs. He has Al, John, Jim, and Steve, their portraits and signatures tattooed. And he also is one of the guys, one of the two super fans who got Al $40,000 and a star on the Walk of Fame in Hollywood. So Dave is if there's a celebrity super fan, it is Dave. So it's really great to have him as my co-host and friend. And speaking of collections, his collection is rivaled by maybe only one person on the planet, and that would be Al himself.
Not Bermuda Schwartz.
I consider Bermuda's and Al as one collection.
Yeah, that's true. I actually didn't think about that.
When Al gets something, it goes to Bermuda for safekeeping. So
outside of the band, I definitely have the largest Weird Al collection, and I have over 6,000 pieces in my Weird Al collection. So that'll give you a good idea of just how big my collection is.
Yeah, my brain can't really comprehend it. Once we can travel again, I would absolutely love to see even just a little bit of your collection if I'm ever in that area, because it just astounds me. I'm a big fan. I've been to a few concerts. I'm not a collector by any means. I'm not an encyclopedic knowledge. I don't have an encyclopedic knowledge of him, but I have been a huge fan since I guess the mid '80s. And so Weird Al has played a huge part in my life, and I really, really love listening to your podcast as well as a couple of the other Weird Al podcasts to learn more about him, and also just the people who are involved in his life or have been involved in his life. A large portion of the interviews aren't even about Weird Al himself. They're about the person, and they're just really interesting people who may have a big connection to him or a small connection. So thank you for that podcast, and I hope that if any of you are interested in Weird Al, even in the slightest bit, definitely go check out their podcast and become a Patreon member to get new and exclusive stuff.
Yeah, the link for that podcast is 2000inch.com, and everywhere on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, we are at 2000inch. That's the number 2000 and the word INCH.
Yeah, I don't know if Twitter will allow the apostrophes or the quotation marks.
Well, to make it extra easy, we also have weirdalpodcast.com. You can't make it any easier than that. You can get to all of our social media and stuff right from that website.
Perfect. Well, should we talk about some words?
I'm so excited. Yes, please.
I would love to have Weird Al on eventually because, as I think we all know, he is a huge word nerd and a fan of words in general. So maybe someday he can hop on here and we can just talk about some words.
I would love to hear that.
So some of my regular listeners may know I am not the most well-versed in the English vocabulary. That's part of the reason why I'm doing this, because I just like learning it. A very small percentage actually sticks in my brain, but it's fun, and I've learned a lot, and I'm appreciating language in general as I do this. So our first word for this episode is Bill Bug. This is one word, Billbug. I think there's a pill bug out there, but I'm not sure if I've heard of a bill bug. So this is a noun from 1861. Any of various weevils, as of the genus Sphenophorus, having larvae that eat the roots of cereal and other grasses. Anybody have any connection to bill bugs here?
I've never heard of a bill bug in my life, but those are two absolutely horrible things combined into one. So I do not want to encounter a bill bug.
Bills and bugs, they're terrible.
I know a guy named Bill, and he's a bug to me, so I'm going to say I think that's a perfect word.
Nice. By the way, the genus name Sphenophorus is spelled Sphenophorus. So maybe I can find a picture of a bill bug and post it on Instagram. So our next word is billed, Billed. It is an adjective. Oh, it doesn't give me a year, which is odd. So it says having a bill, especially of a specified kind, usually used in combination, as in spoon-billed. And a couple episodes ago, which none of you have heard this yet, I had the word bill, and I described 9 different birds' bills, and one of them was the spoonbill. And that is it for billed.
Of course, Weird Al has a great song called I Want a New Duck, and in there he talks about bills, but a duck's bill. And
Yeah.
Of course, there could be like a duck-billed platypus, right? Isn't that a...
Absolutely.
So that's not covered by this word of build?
It doesn't specifically say, but I give my seal of approval that the duck-billed platypus is related to this word for sure. There's definitely that good duck-bill joke in that song.
And we all know that the duck stops here.
Yes. All right. Our next word is biller with an R at the end. It is a noun from 1920. One that bills, especially one that makes out bills. So I guess like maybe a waiter or a waitress would be a biller. They're making out a bill, but really any person who has to make out a bill, who has to get paid, would be a biller.
That's a new one for me. I don't think anyone uses that. I think we should take that one out of the dictionary.
I agree. Next version, I'll take it out. All right. The next word is the word billet, Billet. It is the first form of 3 different forms. This form is a noun from the 15th century. Number 1 is archaic. So this definition isn't used too much anymore. It just means a brief letter, a billet. And then a synonym is the word note. Now we have 2A, an unofficial order directing that a member of a military force be provided with board and lodging, as in a private home. 2B, quarters assigned by or as if by a billet. And then number 3, we have the synonyms position and job, as in a lucrative billet. I'm not familiar with this word, really. I don't know. Maybe that's just my limited life experience. What about you guys?
Yeah, I've never really heard this word before, but it sounds like that a biller could have a billet.
Yes.
I feel like the most the word billet is used is when people are typing the word bullet and they have a typo.
Absolutely. The I and the U are right next to each other, so I'm sure I've done that plenty of times. So we have 2 more forms of the word billet. The second one is a verb. Looks like it's just a transitive verb from 1594. 1, to assign lodging to, as soldiers, by or as if by a billet. And then as soldiers was in parentheses, that's just sort of like an example of who would be assigned lodging. So there's definitely a connection to the first one. And then the number 2 definition is to serve with a billet, as in billet, a householder. Yeah, that doesn't really help my understanding of this word much. But we will move on to the third form of billet. It is also a noun. Let's see, from the 15th century. 1A. Oh, this is good. A chunky piece of wood, as for firewood. Does it have to be chunky? Maybe it can be thin and slender. I don't know.
I like that definition a lot better than the other ones you gave. I like the chunky pieces of wood.
Yes, the third form of billet is definitely my favorite so far. We do have some more definitions for it, though. We've got 1B is obsolete. The synonym is cudgel. 2A, a bar of metal. A bar of metal is called a billet. Okay. 2B, a piece of semi-finished iron or steel nearly square in section made by rolling an ingot or bloom. Ingot is spelled I-N-G-O-T. That's not a word I'm familiar with. I think I remember reading, I don't remember what word it was, but it was somewhere in the B's, the word billet came up. I don't know if it was bar or bender or something like that, but I think it was related to this bar or metal or iron or whatever. Let's see. Now we have 2C, a section of non-ferrous metal ingot hot worked by forging, rolling, and extrusion. So blacksmiths are probably familiar with this. And then the last definition for the third form of billet is 2D, a non-ferrous casting suitable for rolling or extrusion, extrusion with a T. Have either of you ever done any blacksmithing?
Never done a blacksmithing thing in my life.
I wouldn't even know where to start.
No, I haven't either. It seems really cool, but I think I would be terrible at it. Also, too hot. I don't want to get too hot and sweaty.
Yeah, I get sweaty pretty easily. I would stay away from all those billets if it was up to me.
You know what? It is up to you. You get to choose how your life goes. So I think you've made the right decision.
Can choose my own non-sweaty adventure. That's the series I like.
Sitting down and recording a podcast. I like it. All right. Our next word is French. Let's see if I can pronounce this. Billet doux. Billet doux. Could also be billet doux. It is two words with a hyphen. First one is B-I-L-L-E-T. And then the second word is doux, D-O-U-X. Do either of you speak French?
I took French in high school.
Did I pronounce that correctly, do you think?
I would pronounce it billet doux.
Billet doux. Yes, I think that is more correct. So this is a noun from 1673. It's just a love letter. This is, as I said, French, billet doux, which literally means sweet letter. That's very nice.
Well, that's very sweet.
I don't think I've ever really written a love letter, but if I do, I will make sure to call it a billet doux. All right, our next word is billfish. Yep, the fish that swims around in the water. This is one word, noun from 1782. A fish with long, slender jaws, especially any of various bony fishes, with an elongated, tapering upper jaw, including marlins, spearfishes, and sailfishes. And the family names of these various bony fishes are, I always have trouble with these, Istiophoridae and Ziphiidae, something like that. You get the picture. This is definitely one that I want to see a picture of, a billfish.
There are so many bill prefixes. I never would have imagined that there's all these different bill type words.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of imagine that a billfish is, for the way you described it, looks a bit like maybe a marlin or a swordfish or something like that.
Yeah, they specifically mention marlins. So, yeah, I mean, I can definitely picture that. They also mention spearfish or sailfish. I can picture that with that long, the bill, I guess. So, yeah, I'm curious what other types of fishes are billfish.
Yeah, when I hear billfish, I picture someone who plays like saxophone and has relations with Monica Lewinsky.
Part of me wants to do a terrible Bill impression, but I'm not going to do it because it would be terrible. So instead of doing that, I'm going to talk about the next word, which also starts with Bill. Billfold. It is one word from 1895, a folding pocketbook for paper money, and a synonym is wallet. Since I've been quarantined, I don't even take my wallet anymore. It's I have like a credit card, an ID. I want to limit the amount of things that I'm touching and I'm getting dirty. And so my wallet has just been sitting on my desk for like how long it's been, 6 weeks, 8 weeks. I've lost all track of time.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the last time I needed to use my wallet to pay for anything. It's been several months. I'm pretty sure of that.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, you can go to a store, you can use your phone or your watch or whatever to pay. A lot of places obviously are using Venmo and PayPal, so you can just do it all on your phone beforehand, which is pretty awesome. It's like society knew that we had to get prepared technologically for this pandemic. We've got Zoom and digital paying. It's kind of amazing, actually.
The other thing I think about when I hear the word Bill Fold is I'm wondering if that is the brother of Ben Folds.
But because he's named Bill, he's terrible.
Now, there's also a Weird Al song that utilizes this word of choice, billfold. He did a parody of the song Whatever You Like with his song called Whatever You Like. The only time that Al used the exact same title for the song that he's parodying. And the line goes, $7 bills rolled up inside my plastic billfold. Buy you a bagel, even if it isn't day old.
That bagel day old rhyme is a little bit of a stretch, but I like it. All right, we are going to move on to bill hook, like a fish hook. It is one word, noun from 1604. A cutting or pruning tool with a hooked blade. Not you don't want to get cut by this guy.
So is that like a fish knife? Is that what you're picturing?
Yeah, I'm not even sure. It doesn't specifically say. It does say pruning tool, though, so I sort of just imagine that like pruning bushes and trees.
Yeah, it's a cutting tool. Yeah, it's mostly used in like agriculture, and it looks like a knife, but it's got like a bent over hook on the top of it, so it looks like a hook.
Okay, I've probably seen them before, but obviously had no idea they were called a bill hook. All right, the next couple I think are fun. The first one is billiard. It is a noun from 1580, used as an attributive form of billiards, as in a billiard ball. And then I'm actually going to go right into the next one, billiards, because obviously they're related. This is a noun from 1580, any of several games played on an oblong table by driving small balls against one another or into pockets with a cue. Specifically, a game in which one scores by causing a cue ball to hit in succession two object balls. And then compare to the word pool, P-O-O-L. Real quick, the etymology says this is Middle French, billard, which means billiard cue, or billiards, from the word bille, B-I-L-L-E, which means wooden stick or log. And there's more at the word billet, which of course we read at the beginning of this episode. Are you guys fans of billiards or pool?
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, for many years when I was in high school and college, I had a part-time job at a place that sold billiard tables, so I'm very familiar with pool and billiards. Yes.
I never knew that, Dave.
Did you become an expert?
I was not good at playing it, but I could definitely sell you one.
Dave, can you sell me one right now? What's your pitch? I'm so curious. What was your pitch? Did you relate it to Weird Al at all?
I did not. The main thing was that you basically needed to find out what their budget was, and at that point, then you could point them in the direction. There's a whole bunch of different tables, that you can get. There are ones that are, like just something you would have in your basement, and there's ones that you can use as furniture. You can actually buy a conversion top for one that you can make it into your dining room table if you wanted to.
Yeah. So did you two just learn something about each other, or did Ethan just learn something about Dave?
Dave learned that I didn't know that, and I learned that fact. What always when I hear billiards, I think back to my all-time favorite comedy show is Mr. Show, that was on HBO with Bob Odenkirk and David Cross, and there's this great skit where Bob Odenkirk plays this like pool master called Van Hammersley, and that is what I think of when I hear billiards or pool is him doing these tricks and then waving his hands.
I don't think I've seen every episode of that show, but it is a damn good show, so I'll have to go hunt down that episode because that sounds awesome. I really like playing pool, but I'm not very good at it. I don't get a lot of chances to play. It's same with like bowling. I love bowling. I'm not very good at it, but I just love to play.
I like the idea of billiards and bowling. I just don't like the practice of it.
Yes. And it's not very cheap. There's a bowling alley not too far away from me, and it's not cheap per game. So I don't know if I want to spend all that money. Okay, we're not. Oh, bowling actually won't be coming up for. That's not too far away. That's the BOs. So we can talk all about bowling later. So now we have, what is this? Billy B. I think it's pronounced Billy B. Billibi. And it looks like there's a hyphen before the last BI. And then it could also be spelled BILLY-BI. This is a noun from 1961. A group of mussel stock, white wine, and cream served hot or cold. This is French, an alternative of the person's name, Billy B., the last initial B, perhaps from William B. Leeds Jr., who died in 1972 and was an American industrialist. So how does an American industrialist get a soup of mussel stock named after him?
I wish I knew. I wish that I could get some weird things named after me that way.
Well, that's the whole reason I had you on this podcast. I wanted the answer of this from you. Okay. But there must be an interesting story there. I don't know. I'm curious.
There is a local mall near me, Crossgates Mall in Albany, New York. There is a thing called Billy B's, and it's like an indoor play park for kids, like with foam and swings and ball pits and that kind of thing. So I wonder if that's really just a front for them making some sort of stock out of these children that don't get out of the ball pit.
Yeah, instead of a soup of mussel stock, it's children's stock.
Yeah.
Well, hey, maybe William B. Leeds Jr. was from that area and they named it after him.
Hey, I doubt it, but
Yeah, I doubt it too. Okay, we are going to move on to billing. It's bill with an ing, noun from 1875. 1. Advertising or public promotion as of a product or personality. Also, relative prominence of a name in such promotion, as in got top billing. And then number 2, total amount of business or investments as of an advertising agency within a given period.
Earlier we talked a little bit about our rejected podcast names.
Yes.
And I would say that any name where I was not top billing, that is what immediately got rejected.
Yeah, I was really pushing for Ethan and Dave's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast, but Dave is both, alphabetically first. I think your listeners would appreciate that. But he also has the larger Weird Al collection of the two of us. So those factors all weighed in together to ultimately deciding Dave and Ethan as opposed to Ethan and Dave.
Was there much of a discussion, a back and forth about that, or was it a pretty clear answer?
I believe it involved a lot of screaming on Dave's part and demanding that if it wasn't his name first, that he would be replacing me with a tarantula as his co-host.
Hey, that might be good too, but maybe not as engaging as having two humans, I should say.
Yeah, so I obviously, this has been over a year of us doing the podcast, and I have relented, and it is Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast. Dave does have the top billing.
And you just hit your 1 year anniversary. What day was that?
So the official 1 year anniversary was May 8th. And it's actually pretty weird because we figured out that it's only a few days after the actual anniversary that we met for the first time. I was 16 years old. I don't know how old you were, Dave, but we met 13 years ago. I believe it was May 3rd of this year. So yeah. Our anniversaries are very close together. Our meeting anniversary and our podcast anniversary.
I think they call that synchronicity. Coincidence, something like that. That's very cool. All right, we only have 2 more for this episode. The next one is Billingsgate. This is all one word. It is a noun from 1652. Coarsely abusive language. That's the end of that. There's a synonym, abuse. And then this is from, it says Billingsgate, an old gate and fish market in London, England. So it seems like, based on what I can gather from this information, it seems like this fish market probably had a lot of coarsely abusive language. going back and forth. What do you think?
Well, gee, a fish market where people are using coarse language, I can't imagine that's a real thing.
In London in the 1650s, no less.
Yeah, it's hard to believe, but I guess if the dictionary says it's true, it's got to be true.
Absolutely.
Speaking of fish markets, Dave and I, on the last Weird Al tour, we each hit 18 different shows, but we went to a number of those 18 together. And we went to Seattle to see Weird Al for the first time. He was there for 3 shows over 2 days. And we got to visit the famous fish market.
Pike's Place?
Pike's Place, yeah. Pike's Place where they throw the fish, whenever somebody orders a fish and you see the fish go flying over your head. It was really pretty cool. I had a lot of fun. Ethan was terrified.
I don't eat fish. I thought fish juice was going to touch me, and I was pretty freaked out. But it was cool to watch from afar.
Yeah, I visited there. I too also don't eat fish, so I would not go anywhere near at there now. But yeah, it's definitely a sight to see. All right, are you guys ready for the last word?
Yep, bring it on.
Does it start with Bill?
It does, in fact. It is the word billion, billion, not million. It's hard to distinguish sometimes. This is billion. Dr. Evil had trouble with that. This is a noun from 1834. 1, it just says, see the number table. So when we get to the ends, we can see all the numbers. And then number 2, yeah, I'm sure they're all written out, right? And then number 2, a very large number. Well, that's clear and concise dictionary. Thank you for that. Let's see. Billion can also be an adjective, and billionth with a th at the end can be an adjective or a noun. And the etymology isn't terribly interesting. So those were all the words. You now both get to pick a word of the episode. And if you like, I can quickly read through them as a reminder. It's just whatever word that sort of jumped out you as your favorite, or whatever terms you like.
Yeah, I would love to hear the full list so I don't pick the wrong one.
Right, exactly. I always need to read through them. So they are billbug, build, biller, billet. There are 3 forms of that. Billet-doux, billfish, billfold, billhook, billiard, billiards, billybee, billing, billingsgate, and billion.
Wow, Dave, I feel like, or do you pick a word too, Spencer?
I usually do, but when I have guests on, I like them to pick it. But I can pick one as well.
Well, so should Dave and I each have our own choice, or should we collaborate and determine a collective choice?
I want you to each have your own brains and consciousness here.
Well, because of the connection that I have, throughout my high school and college, I'm going to go with the word billiards.
Perfect.
Because it lands in a Weird Al song, I will go with billfold.
I love it. And I am going to pick billet-doux, which is a love letter, as my word of the episode, just because that was a totally... I had never heard that word before related to that, and so I thought that was a cool learning experience for me. Anything else you guys want to say? Anything else you want to plug for the people?
We had a great time joining you, Spencer. Thanks for having us on this podcast. We use many words on our podcast every week. We drop new episodes, which we call Inches, every Wednesday. So we've released over 50 inches at this point, and we continue to chug along down the ruler. We will eventually hit 2,000 inches in 35 years. So we hope your listeners give us a chance and join us for that very long journey. How many years will your podcast be going on, Spencer?
Very good question. I was actually going to ask you, do you actually think that you are going to hit 2,000? But with the way Weird Al's career has gone, I'm sure there's at least 2,000 people who are connected to him in some way. Yes, I think I predicted this will go about 16 years total. I did some real quick math with the page numbers, and I think that's what I came out to be. I'm about a year and a half in, so I've got about 14 and a half years left. Not as long as yours.
Well, we're also weekly, so if we condensed it down to every day or a couple times a week, we would get there a bit faster.
Yes, I think when I first started, I was doing it 3 times a week, and then as I started to do that, I was like, this is going to take me forever. I need to bump it up to every day, and they're usually pretty short episodes. What else was I going to say? Oh, there's another podcast. This might be a podcast, and he's going through all of They Might Be Giants songs in order, and they have probably at least over 700, maybe 800 unique songs, and so that's going to take him a long time as well.
Wow, yeah.
Well, thank you very much for being on this very fun episode. This is something that I want to do more frequently, is have guests on, because it's just a different form. It breaks up the monotony of it's just me talking, and so I love to hear other people. I also love helping other people, which is I wanna help people plug their podcast, their projects, their art, whatever it is. And so not that you guys need any help. I think you're doing okay, but we all could use some help.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely give us a call when you get to the I's, and we'll love to talk about the word inch. And when you get to W, and we'll talk about Weird Al.
All right. Can you send me an email reminder in about 5 years or so for the inches?
Dave, I'll remind you to remind me to remind Spencer.
I will write a billet doux and put it into my billfold, and I will make sure I do that.
I love it. And I just looked up what page the word weird is on. It is on page 1419. Would have been great if there was a 27 in there.
Yeah.
But that might be a really good episode to have Weird Al on, probably 10 to 12 years down the road.
Good luck.
Thank you. I hope to get there. All right, so this is the end of the episode, and this has been Spencer dispensing information. Thank you and goodbye. Hello, word nerds. Welcome back. This is a new episode of the podcast called The Dictionary. Today is the end of May. I have a feeling that we will, starting tomorrow, June 1st, we are probably still going to all have to be in our homes unless you live in a state where there is a governor who's doing a terrible job, and I hope you don't. But they're out there. Man, I don't know what to say. This is so insane what's happening, and there's a lot of common sense not being used out there. So please just use it. Okay. Do you like it when I talk about stuff like this, or my personal life, or whatever? Maybe I'll try and leave most of it for the end of the episode, if I have anything to say. The first word is billionaire. Noun. Oh, by the way, how was the last episode? Did you have any comments about Dave and Ethan? I recorded that 2 days ago, I think, from the time I'm recording this. Little behind the scenes information. I actually skipped the episode from May 29th because I thought that theirs would be more interesting, or the one that we recorded would be more interesting for them, instead of hearing Billabong, Billboard, and Billboard. So I just recorded that one, little out of order, but that's okay. Billionaire is the first word. Billion. The word lion is in the middle. Aire. It is a noun from 1844. One whose wealth is estimated at $1 billion or more as of dollars or pounds. Oh, it could be other forms of... Oh, that's just an example. Yeah, okay. 1844, is that when the first billionaire came to be? I will have to look that up. That's interesting. I just heard that, what's his name from Amazon? The name, what's that phrase from Harry Potter? Thou who will not be named something? That's not it, I know. That guy might be the world's first trillionaire, because Amazon is making a ton of money right now. Is that fair? I don't know. I got mixed feelings about that. Okay, moving on to Bill of Attainder. 3 words from 1787, a legislative act that imposes punishment without a trial. Next is Bill of Exchange. 3 words from 1534, an unconditional written order from one person to another to pay a specified sum of money to a designated person. Next is Bill of Fare, 3 words from 1631. Number 1, the synonym is menu. That makes me think of food. I'm hungry. I need to eat after this. Number 2, synonym is program. Now we have Bill of Goods, 3 words from 1842. 1. A consignment of merchandise. Number 2. Something intentionally misrepresented. Something passed off in a deception or fraud, often used in the phrase, sell a bill of goods. Next is bill of health. 3 words. I think we're all a little bit worried about what our bill of health is these days. This is from 1644. 1. A certificate given to the ship's master at the time of leaving port that indicates the state of health of a ship's company and of a port with regard to infectious diseases. Ooh, that couldn't be more timely. Did you hear that when all this was going down, there were so many cases coming from one of the cruise ship companies that they had their own section, like in the computer system at the hospital, for where did this come from. I think it was like country or state. It was probably state, and then a cruise line, because there were so many. Anyway, I wonder if the person who was supposed to give those ships bill of healths screwed up. Probably not. I mean, people just bring it. The ship was fine. It was the people that are bad. That's a metaphor for life, for humans taking over this earth. Okay. A usually favorable report following an examination or investigation, as in, gave the criticized textbook a clean bill of health. Now we have bill of indictment, 3 words from circa 1530. An indictment before it is found or ignored by the grand jury. Next is bill of lading, Lading. This word came up a couple episodes ago, and I didn't know what it was. This is from 1532, a document issued by a carrier that lists goods being shipped and specifies the terms of their transport. Next is Bill of Particulars from 1831, a detailed listing of charges or claims brought in a legal action or of a defendant's response or counterclaim. No clue what any of that what that meant. Next, we have Bill of Rights. This is great. There is a great scene in that movie. That movie with that guy who plays the Wolverine, Mr. Something about that. I'll find it. I'll post a link or something. There's a great scene where he's talking to a 6-year-old kid about the Bill of Rights, and it's great. This is often capitalized with the B and the R. From 1701, a document containing a formal statement of rights, as in a patient's Bill of Rights, specifically a summary of fundamental rights and privileges guaranteed to a person against violation by the state, used especially of the first 10 amendments of the U.S. Constitution. There's a lot of talk right now about the freedom of speech. I think I was listening to Mark Maron and his guest. They were talking about it. And it's really interesting because you can't really control anything and anybody can say anything that they want, and it's crazy. But then somebody wrote a letter in that said something like, it's not the freedom of speech that's the problem, it's nobody's accountable for their words, it's very anonymous, etc., etc. So it's more of the platform that's the issue. I don't know, can something be done about that? Now we have Bill of Sale from 1550, a formal instrument for the conveyance or transfer of title to goods and chattels. What's a chattel? Now we have, it's not billion, it's billon, Billon, noun from circa 1727. 1, gold or silver heavily alloyed with a less valuable metal. Number 2, an alloy of silver containing more than 50% of copper by weight. Next, we have billow, first form, noun from 1552. 1, the synonym is wave, especially a great wave or surge of water. Number 2, a rolling mass, as of flame or smoke, that resembles a high wave. Billowy is an adjective. I think of wind and trees when I think of this. Not water so much. This is from the Old Norse bilja, which is akin to the Old High German balg, which means bag, and there's more at the word belly. I once was sort of in a surge of water. I was in Hawaii. There were some people. We were sort of looking down. We saw all of the water go away because, you know, when a wave comes, it's sort of like almost like it's pulling the water that was on the shore away, and the water kept on going and going and going, and it was being pulled way more than any other time it had been pulled away. And I turn around and I look up and there's this giant wave coming, and then it just crashes on all of us, and we're sort of like, we don't even get a chance to body surf. It just tore us to shreds. But it was a lot of fun because we weren't hurt. It wasn't that bad. We were right at the shore, so I wasn't worried, but that was crazy. That was a terrible story. Now we have the word billow. No, that's what we just read. We have the second form of billow. It is a verb from 1585. 1, to rise or roll in waves or surges. I did a lot of that. Number 2, to bulge or swell out as through action of the wind. Now, that was intransitive. Now we have transitive, to cause, to billow. Next is billy, first form noun from 1839. This is chiefly Australian and New Zealand. A metal or enamelware pail or pot with a lid and wire bail, called also billy can. By the way, billy is billy. This is actually a Scottish word, billy pot, which is a cooking utensil. Now we have the second form of billy. It is a noun from 1848. 1, synonym is billy club. Number 2, synonym is billy goat. Let's see. Boy, I keep on losing my place. This is probably just from the name Billy. Now we have Billy Club from 1949, a heavy, usually wooden club, specifically a police officer's club. Next is Billy Cock, one word. Yep, that's what I said. Noun from 1721. This is British, and we just have the number 3 definition for the word derby. Next is Billy Goat, 2 words, noun from 1820, a male goat. I used to look like a billy goat because I had a longish goatee. Don't know if that's going to happen again. Next is bilobed, adjective from 1756, divided into 2 lobes, as in a bilobed nucleus. And the last word is bilocation, bilocation. Noun from 1858, the state of being or ability to be in 2 places at the same time. I want that ability. Well, I have to pick Bill of Rights as the words of the episode because it's the Bill of Rights. And you know what? Maybe some people need to go check that out again and see what it says. Maybe I should go do that too, actually. I might learn something. This has been, I was going to say a little personal stuff, I guess. We've been watching some horror movies for my wife's podcast, Horse Talk Horror. We watched The Hunt. I don't know if I mentioned that. We watched The Platform, probably another movie that starts with the word the. We watched Vivarium, Absentia. We're still watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine sometimes. We watched this, or most of this documentary called The Hat Man, which is super interesting. Documentary is a little cheap, but there's some good stuff in there. There's also some not good stuff in there. But overall, it was okay. I'm not trying to be judgy. That didn't come out right. That is mostly what we've been watching. I think that's probably good. Still trying to catch up on podcasts. Hoo boy, that's hard. All right, this has been Spencer dispensing information. Goodbye. Hello, word nerds. Welcome to another episode of the podcast called The Dictionary. Today, I think today is June 1st. Happy June. Happy June. The first word is biltong, biltong. It is a noun from 1815. This is chiefly South African. That's not something you usually see. It just means jerked meat. Biltong. This is an Afrikaans word, which is from South Africa. Bil, B-I-L, means rump, and tong means tongue, like the tongue in your mouth, the thing that helps you make the sounds. So it's maybe that's where the jerked meat comes from. They take it from the rump and the tongue. That sounds gross. Okay, next is bima, B-I-M-A-H. You could also spell it without the H. This is a noun from 1941. A raised platform in a synagogue from which the Torah is read. This is a Yiddish and El Hebrew word. Is that Lower Hebrew something? Which means bime, or no, the word is bime or bima, something like that. from the Lower Hebrew, bima from the Lower Greek. I can't remember if that's what the L stands for. Lower Greek bima, which means raised platform, and there's more at the word bema, B-E-M-A, which we must have read, but I have no recollection of that. Next is bimanual. Manual with bi in the front. This is an adjective from circa 1889, done with or requiring the use of both hands. Bimanually is an adverb. There are a lot of people who only have one hand, so they can't do things that require to be done bimanually. Next is bimbette. B-I-M-B-E-T-T-E. Noun from 1982. It is slang, an attractive but vacuous woman. Well, that's an interesting definition, a bimbette. It's from bimbo plus the suffix et, E-T-T-E. So that's so interesting. Obviously, it's slang. It doesn't seem to be a very nice word, but it's out there. I've never heard this word before. But if you want to learn more about bimbos, I can't believe that I just said that phrase. That's the next word, bimbo. It is a noun from 1918. This is old. Number one is slang, and the synonyms are just man or woman. As in, telling a thick-headed pitcher that the bimbo at the plate hasn't hit a curve in 3 seasons. That is a quote from Jay Stuller. This is used as a generalized term of disapproval, especially for an attractive but vacuous person. So that's the same definition that we saw for bimbette. As in, we didn't want a blonde bimbo in that role. We wanted her to be smart. That is a quote from Hugh Wilson. I can't think of off the top of my head what vacuous means. It doesn't seem like this is making sense in my brain from what I think the word means, but hey, whatever. All right, number 2 is slang. We have the 1C definition for the word tramp, as in evidence of how her hubby's been cheating on her with various bimbos. And that is from Dan Greenberg. This says it is perhaps from the Italian word bimbo, which means baby. So obviously this word has been used in a variety of ways, but it's not a nice word, so don't use it, or don't use bimbette, either one. Now we have bimetal, one word adjective from 1893. Synonym is bimetallic, and bimetal is also a noun. But here we go with bimetallic. It is an adjective from 1876. 1, relating to, based on, or using bimetallism. Number 2, composed of 2 different metals. This is often used of devices having a part in which 2 metals that expand differently are bonded together. And bimetallic is also a noun. Now we have bimetallism, if you were curious what that meant. Noun from 1876. The use of 2 metals, as gold and silver, jointly as a monetary standard with both constituting legal tender at a predetermined ratio. Bimetallist is a noun, and bimetallistic is an adverb. This is from the French word bimetallisme, which is from bi plus metal, or metal, which means metal. Next is bimillenary. Bimillenary. It is, or it could also be bimillennial. Noun from 1850. 1, a period of 2,000 years. Bimillenary. We recently hit the bimillenary of the Gregorian calendar, I think. It's all, calendars and dates and years are all sort of all over the place and sort of mean nothing. All right, number 2, a 2000th anniversary. Bimillenary. Why can I not say this word? Bimillenary is also an adjective. Next we have bimodal, adjective from 1903, having or relating to 2 modes, especially having or occurring with 2 statistical modes. Bimodality is a noun. Now we have bimolecular, adjective from 1899. 1, relating to or formed from 2 molecules. Number 2, being 2 molecules thick. think my brain is 2 molecules thick, as in bimolecular lipid layers. And bimolecularly is an adverb. Next, we have bimonthly. We talked about this word a number of episodes ago. They gave some usage information on bimonthly and biweekly and how they could get confused if you don't have the right context. Anyway, bimonthly, this is the first form, adjective from 1845. 1, occurring every 2 months. And here's where the confusion comes in. Number 2, occurring twice a month. Synonym is semi-monthly. And then it says usage. If you want to learn more about the usage, go see the prefix bi. So that was, if you want to learn more, that was what we read a number of episodes ago. I hope you're listening to these podcasts, or these episodes in order. You really should be. You're going to be terribly confused if you don't. Now we have the second form of bi-monthly. It is an adverb from 1858. 1, once every 2 months. And number 2, twice a month. Now we have the third form of bi-monthly. It is a noun from circa 1890. A bi-monthly publication. Well, is it every 2 months or is it twice a month? I don't know. Now we have bimorphemic. B-I-M-O-R-P-H-E-M-I-C. Adjective from 1942. Consisting of 2 morphemes. Now we have the word bin. B-I-N. It is the first form, noun from before the 12th century. A box, frame, crib, or enclosed place used for storage. A bin. Now we have the second form of bin. It is a transitive verb from 1841, to put into a bin. Hey, go bin that stuff. When you got kids around and they're playing with their toys, you got to tell them to put it away. So you can just say, go bin your toys. Now we have the prefix bin. This is, let's see, it just has the synonym, which is the prefix bi, the first form of it, as in binaural, which is B-I-N, that's the prefix that we're dealing with now, and then A-U-R-A-L. I think that has to do with hearing, so binaural probably has to do with hearing on both sides or something like that. So it's very similar or essentially the same as just the prefix bi. They just added an N, which they probably did because the word that it is being added to starts with a vowel. So they needed some consonant in there to separate. Otherwise, it would be biaural, and that's a weird word. Let's see. The etymology says this is from Latin bini, which means 2 by 2. That is spelled B-I-N-I. It is akin to the Old English twin, T-W-I-N-N, which means twofold. And there's more at the word twin. And now we have the word binarism, B-I-N-A-R-I-S-M. It is a noun from 1983, a mode of thought predicated on stable oppositions as good and evil, or male and female, that is seen in post-structuralist analysis as an inadequate approach to areas of difference. Also, a specific dichotomy subscribed to or reinforced in such thought, as in the binarism of West and East. I don't totally understand what I just read, but it does seem to deal with opposites, which I think is always kind of interesting. I don't know, for some reason I like the idea of opposites and finding balance between them, and you need the opposites, you need one because you can't have the other. There's that great line in, I think this is a weird example, the Devil's song in the South Park movie, something like, you can't have evil without good, so it must be good to be evil sometimes. Anyway, yin and yang, the balance of good and evil of opposites. Anyway, the last word for this episode is binary. Could also be pronounced binary. A few pronunciations. They're basically the same. This is the first form. It is spelled B-I-N-A-R-Y. Bi is not a letter. Bi is a prefix. This is a noun from the 15th century, something made of or based on 2 things or parts, as a binary star. Binary, There's like I said, a few ways to pronounce it. And then B, a binary number system. I think I like to say binary. I don't know. Binary number system. A binary star, by the way, I think is a solar system that has two stars. And if I understand correctly, so our solar system just has one star, the sun. But there is some evidence that says that Jupiter came close to being another star. It's huge, but it wasn't quite big enough to turn into a star. But the majority of solar systems, I think I've heard, is that most of them are actually binary star systems. They have two stars. So those must be weird. Okay. So what is going to be the word of the episode? Not going to pick that. I don't really want to pick bimbo or bimbet. I think that those are just not nice words. Let us pick... Well, we'll pick binarism as the word of the episode because it seemed like an interesting concept of opposites. Sure, why not? Okay, we are halfway through page 122. This is all that I'm going to tell you for today. And this has been Spencer dispensing information. Goodbye. Hello, word nerds. Welcome to another episode of The Dictionary. This is a podcast, if you were so curious to know that. I've had a few people say, give me a link on YouTube. I watch podcasts on YouTube. I guess there are a lot of podcasts and podcast-like things that are on YouTube, but this is not on YouTube. So if you're listening to this on YouTube, it's not me, because I didn't put it there. It must be somebody else. So you should go report them. There's no visual thing to this. I guess technically I could, but then that's a whole other thing I got to do, and I don't really feel like doing extra work. This is enough work as it is. The first word for this episode is binary. Same word as the end of the last episode. This is the second form, binary, adjective from 1597. I need to get closer to the book. Chair, move. Okay, great. By the way, if you're curious, since this is all pandemic times, quarantining, sheltering in place, I am sitting at my dining room table. On a dining room table, I'm not on the dining room table. I'm on a dining room chair, on a cushion, with the book in front of me on my laptop, which is on another giant book, so it's a little bit higher. Who cares? Okay, this is number one. Compounded or consisting of or marked by two things or parts. 2A. Synonym is duple, D-U-P-L-E. Used of measure or rhythm, like in music stuff. 2B. Having two musical subjects or two complementary sections. 3A. Relating to, being, or belonging to a system of numbers having 2 as its base, as in the binary digits 0 and 1. Now we have 3B. Involving a choice or condition of two alternatives, as one-off or yes-no. Nope, that's not what it said. As on-off or yes-no. So only two options. Now we have number 4A, composed of two chemical elements, an element and a radical that acts as an element, or two such radicals. Should I read that again? I don't think I read it so good. Composed of two chemical elements, an element and a radical that acts as an element, or two such radicals. 4B, utilizing two harmless ingredients that upon combining form a lethal substance as a gas. So a gas is an example of a lethal substance. Yes, it is, as in binary weapons. Number 5, relating two logical or mathematical elements. That's the end of that sentence, as in a binary operation. Number 6, of or relating to the use of stable oppositions, as good and evil, to analyze a subject or create a structural model, as in the binary opposition of male and female. That is a quote from Joan W. Scott. This is from the Latin binarius, from Latin bini, which means 2 by 2, and there's more at the prefix bin, which we read near the end of the last episode. Now we have binary fission, 2 words, noun from 1897. Reproduction of a cell by division into 2 approximately equal parts, as in the binary fission of protozoans. Now we have binary star. This was one of the synonyms in the very last word of the last episode, binary. So binary star is a noun from circa 1844, a system of 2 stars that revolve around each other under their mutual gravitation. I think I talked about, I know I talked about that in the last episode, how, at least the last I heard, most solar systems out there actually have 2 stars. So we are sort of the exception to that rule. Jupiter almost got there, not quite. But yeah, I think it's so fascinating that they rotate around each other. So how does that affect the planets around it? I've been listening to some science podcasts, and there's been some talk about exoplanets, and it's like, oh, I just want to know, what is life like? What's the environment like out there in those other solar systems and stuff? Okay, next is binary system. This is similar. It's a noun from 1844. Synonym is just binary star. Also, a similar system containing bodies, as black holes, other than stars. So a binary system is really anything out there that has 2 of one thing, 2 black holes, 2 stars, but usually I think it's 2 stars. Now we have binational, adjective from 1888, of or relating to 2 nations, as in a binational board of directors. Now we have a word that came up during the bin prefix in the last episode. This one is binaural, binaural. It is an adjective from 1861, one of relating to or involving 2 or both ears. So if you only got 1 ear, then you don't get to experience this. Number 2, synonym is stereophonic. Binaurally is an adverb. The world is binaural because most of us who have 2 ears that are working, this is how we experience the world. If something happens on our right side, the sound gets to our right ear just a tiny fraction of a second before the left ear does, and that is how we know what direction it came in. In front of you and behind you, I think, is a little bit different because it hits your ears at the same time, but there's something that happens that you know that it came anyway. But yeah, that's how we experience the world. Obviously, people who are partially deaf or completely deaf in 1 ear or both ears, they have a totally different experience with the world. And I personally don't know what that is. I mean, sometimes I actually have some ear problems, so I get it a little bit. But in general, my ears work fine. Although my hearing is going fast. I'm getting old, people. Why are we talking about this? Now let's move on to the word bind. This is a verb. It's the first form. The past tense is bound. I think that would be the past tense. It is from before the 12th century. We are starting with the transitive verbs definitions. 1a, to make secure by tying. 1b, to confine, restrain, or restrict, as if with bonds. 1c, to put under an obligation, as in binds himself with an oath. 1d, to constrain with legal authority. 2a, to wrap around with something so as to enclose or cover. 2b, synonym is bandage. Number 3, to fasten round about. Number 4, to tie together as stalks of wheat. What did I just say? As stalks of wheat did not come out correctly. That's just an example of something that you would tie together. 5a, to cause to stick together. 5b, to take up and hold, as by chemical forces. We have a little bit more of the definition. It says combine with. That's another part of that. Now we have number 6. The synonym is constipate. If you're constipated, everything's all binded up. You're in a bind. Number 7, to make a firm commitment for, as in a handshake binds the deal. Not anymore. No more handshakes. Number 8, to protect, strengthen, or decorate by a band or binding. Number 9, to apply the parts of the cover to a book, was in parentheses. That would be an example. Number 10, to set at work as an apprentice. Synonym is indenture. Number 11, we don't usually get numbers this high. To cause to have an emotional attachment. And then number 12, to fasten together, as in a pin bound the ends of the scarf. Those were the transitives. Now let's hear the intransitives. 1A, to form a cohesive mass. 1B, to combine or be taken up, especially by chemical action, as in antibody binds to a specific antigen. Number 2, to hamper free movement or natural action. Number 3, to become hindered from free operation. And number 4, to exert a restraining or compelling effect, as in a promise that binds. This is from the Old English bindan, akin to the Old High German bintan, which means to bind, from Greek pisma, which means cable, from the Sanskrit badnati, which means he ties. All right, now we have the second form of bind. It is a noun from before the 12th century. Don't worry, it's not as long. 1A, something that binds. 1B, the act of binding, the state of being bound. 1C, a place where binding occurs. Number 2, we have the number 3 definition for the word tie. Number 3, a position or situation in which one is hampered, constrained, or prevented from free movement or action. We have a phrase in a bind, and that means in trouble. And now the last word for this episode is binder, B-I-N-D-E-R, noun from before the 12th century. 1, a person or machine that binds something, as books. 2A, something used in binding. 2B, a usually detachable cover, as for holding sheets of paper. Number 3, something, as tar or cement, that produces or promotes cohesion in loosely assembled substances. Number 4, a temporary insurance contract that provides coverage until the policy is issued. Number 5, something, as money, given in earnest. Also, the agreement arrived at. And then number 6, a tobacco leaf wrapped between the filler and wrapper of a cigar. I think the word of the episode is going to be, I'll pick binary system, because I think that's cool, and we don't have a binary solar system. We just have a single star system. So yeah, that's all. Thank you very much for listening. Until next time, this is Spencer reading the dictionary. Goodbye. Hello, word nerds. Welcome to another episode of the dictionary. Today is brought to you by me. I'm doing this. First word is bindery, B-I-N-D-E-R-Y, noun from 1793, a place where books are bound. Now we have the word binding. It is the first form, noun from the 13th century. 1, the action of one that binds. Number 2, a material or device used to bind, as 2A, the cover and materials that hold a book together. 2B, a narrow fabric used to finish raw edges. Now we have 2C, a set of ski fastenings for holding the boot firm on the ski. The boot. All right, now we have the second form of binding. It is an adjective from the 14th century. 1, that binds. That's the whole definition, that binds. Number 2, imposing an obligation. Bindingly is an adverb, and bindingness is a noun. Now we have binding energy, noun from 1932. The energy required to break up a molecule, atom, or atomic nucleus completely into its constituent particles. That must take up a lot of energy and a lot of thought on how to figure out how to do that. Now we have bindle, Bindle, noun from 1897, a bundle of clothes or bedding. It says it's perhaps an alternative of the word bundle. So it could be a bundle and it could be a bindle. Now we have bindle, stiff, 2 words. Noun from 1897. The synonym is just the word hobo, especially one who carries his clothes or bedding in a bundle. Bedding in a bundle, it's also called a bindle. I mean, that makes sense when you put it that way, but I don't think I've ever heard bindle stiff as another name for a hobo. They got all their clothes in that little bag, and they probably have it on a stick, which maybe is where the word stiff comes from. I don't know. Now we have bind off, 2 words, transitive verb from circa 1939, to cast off in knitting. I've never knitted before. I don't know this one. I wouldn't mind actually learning how to knit or crochet. It seems like something that I wouldn't mind doing because I like those sort of monotonous tasks that don't take up a lot of brain energy. I could watch a show or listen to a podcast or listen to music or something while I'm doing that. Obviously, sometimes it does take some thought. You have to think about, you don't want to make a mistake because then you got to undo it, and that's a pain. But I guess a phrase in knitting is bind off. Now we have bind over, transitive verb from 1610, to put under a bond to do something, as appear in court. Now we have bind weed, all one word, so you'd say bindweed. Noun from 1548, any of various twining plants, we're going to skip the parentheses, that mat or interlace with plants among which they grow. So the part in parentheses says, especially the genus Convolvulus, which is of the morning glory family. So maybe I can find an example of a twining plant called bindweed. Next we have bine, Bine, noun from 1727, a twining stem or flexible shoot, as of the hop. Also, a plant, as woodbine, whose shoots are bines. I don't know what any of that meant. I've heard of woodbine. They use that a lot in like the name of a place or a golf course or something. So I guess a woodbine is a plant and it's made of bines. Their shoots are bines. I gotta find a picture. Okay, now we have beaner. I was gonna say biner, but it's beaner. Biner. It is a noun from 1973, and the synonym is carabiner. That's the thing that usually rock climbers use to hook onto stuff. I used to have a carabiner for my keys, and so some people just call them beaners. Now we have Benet Simone scale. Capital B-I-N-E-T hyphen capital S-I-M-O-N. Simone. It looks like Simon, but it's pronounced Simone. And then the word scale. So this is a noun from 1914, an intelligence test consisting originally of tasks graded from the level of the average 3-year-old to that of the average 12-year-old, but later extended in range. I don't know if I've heard of this one. This is from Alfred Binet, who died in 1911, and Theodore, or maybe Théodore Simon, who died in 1961, and they were French psychologists. I have a feeling, because we don't really hear this anymore, that it's not something that gets used. Even the IQ test, I've heard, is, doesn't really do what people think it does. Moving on to Bing cherry, noun from 1925, a widely cultivated large sweet cherry having glossy dark red skin and firm juicy flesh. This is from, in case you were curious, this is from Bing. What is happening? Is that a language? Hold on, let's check. Almost there. Pronunciations, abbreviations. Is there an abbreviation for AH? No, there is not. Okay, so what is this saying? AH, and then the word Bing in italics. FL, maybe I should look up what that is too. FL 1875, an American but Chinese-born horticulturist. So was his or her name Ah Bing? Ah Bing? But what does the FL mean? Why don't I know these things? Come on, Spencer. What's going on? FL. Flourished? Okay. Anyway, Bing cherry comes from somebody, a Chinese-born American who was a horticulturist. The first time I heard Bing cherry, I think, was actually related to Friends, the show Friends, because Chandler's last name is Bing, and they made some joke about that. But it was in the 90s. I didn't know what a Bing cherry was, but now everybody knows what it is. Next, we have the word binge, B-I-N-G-E. Oh, we hear this a lot these days. It is the first form noun from 1854. 1A, a drunken revel. Synonym is spree. 1B, an unrestrained and often excessive indulgence, as in a buying binge. 1C, an act of excessive or compulsive consumption, as of food. Number 2, a social gathering. Synonym is party. Never heard of a party called a binge, but that makes sense. This is E. I assume that means English dialect. Binge, which means to drink heavily. Of course, we use it. This is more of the next form, which we will read, but usually we hear the word binge now. You could binge a show, but obviously it has to do with food and drinking as well. So now we have the second form of binge. It is an intransitive verb from 1910, to go on a binge. Binger is a noun. Now we have the word bingo. So many possible uses for the word bingo. First form, interjection from 1925. 1. It is used to announce an unexpected event or instantaneous result. Bingo. Number 2, used to announce a winning position in bingo. When you get a bingo, you say bingo. I remember when I was at camp once. It was one of them sleepover camps. For some reason, I was in a bad mood. I was probably like 7 years old or something. I don't know if I was in a bad mood or what. For whatever reason, I just wanted to like pout and be in the cabin by myself. And there was a whole bingo game going on. The whole bunch of people got together in the cafeteria area, and they were playing bingo. And my counselor made me feel better for whatever I was pissed about. I don't know. And then he convinced me to go play bingo with everybody. And I think the first game I played, I won. I got bingo. I think I got like a stick of gum or something stupid. All right, number 3 for bingo. Used to express endorsement of a correct assertion. Yes, you got it. Bingo. So this is an alternative of the word bing, B-I-N-G, which is not in the dictionary, which is an interjection suggestive of a ringing sound. Now we have the second form of bingo. It is a noun from 1923, a game of chance played with cards having numbered squares corresponding to numbered balls drawn at random and won by covering 5 such squares in a row. Also, a social gathering at which bingo is played. Bingo, it's just a game of luck, really. I mean, it's kind of fun, but that's all it is. We play Oscar bingo when the Oscars come on every year. My wife and I we print up a bunch of those bingo cards, and if it's just us, we'll grab like 3 or 4 of the cards, and then, you don't really win anything, but it's something to do while the show is going on. And there's things like somebody cries, somebody has a handwritten acceptance speech, somebody falls, there's a car commercial. Anyway, it's just kind of a fun thing to do for a kind of silly show. Next, we have Binky, capital B-I-N-K-Y. This is a trademark, which I had no idea. It is used for an infant's pacifier. I hear people call pacifiers Binkies all the time, but I did not realize that it was an actual trademarked pacifier called a Binky. Man, you guys got lucky. Whoever came up with that stuff gets used all the time. It's like Kleenex and Hoover and all that. Now we have the word binnacle, B-I-N-N-A-C-L-E. It is a noun from 1762, a housing for a ship's compass and a lamp. That's called a binnacle. This is an alternative of the Middle English bitacle, which is from, I think this is saying Old Portuguese or Old Spanish, and then it says Old Portuguese again, bitacola, and the Old Spanish bitacula, from the Latin habiticulum. Yeah. That means dwelling place, from habitare, which means to inhabit, and there's more at the word habitation. And now we have the last word. It is binocs, binocs. It is a noun from 1970, and we just have the synonym binoculars. That was it for this one. Let us pick a lot of good ones I liked in here. Let's pick Benet Simone scale, because I didn't know what that was. That is it. Go have some fun and be good to your fellow people. Seriously. This has been Spencer dispensing information. Goodbye. Hello, word nerds. Welcome to another episode of the podcast called The Dictionary. Just a couple of days ago, I recorded 2 upcoming episodes with 2 guests. We had a really good time talking about words and got off on tangents, so I hope you enjoy those. But now I am backtracking to record the previous 2 episodes. The first word is binocular. It is the first form, binocular. This is an adjective from 1738 of relating to using or adapted to the use of both eyes. Most of us have 2 eyes. There's a few of us who have only 1 eye. There's a few of us who don't have the use of either eye. And there's a few of us who only have, there's a few of us who have 3 eyes. Wow, bad joke and bad delivery. Binocularity is a noun and binocularly is an adverb. So we as humans have binocular vision, but there's a lot of other animals that have, I don't know what the name would be, but they have different types of vision where they can see in 2 different directions. I don't know if that would be called, I guess that would still be called binocular, but it's not stereoscopic. We have binocular stereoscopic vision, but like chameleons and pigeons and stuff, they have eyes on the opposite sides, and they can move them around in different ways. Now we have the second form of binocular. It is a noun from 1871. 1, a binocular optical instrument. So it's an instrument that can see stuff with 2 lenses, basically. Number 2, a handheld optical instrument composed of 2 telescopes and a focusing device, and usually having prisms to increase magnifying ability, usually used in plural, binoculars. We just recently visited my grandpa, who is in an assisted living area, and because he's trapped in his little room all day, my dad gave him some binoculars, which he was very excited about, because he's got this bunch of land and trees behind outside of his window, so he was very happy about that. Now we have the word binomial. It is, actually, is there any etymology? No. Okay, binomial is a noun from 1557. 1, a mathematical expression consisting of 2 terms connected by a plus sign or minus sign. Number 2, a biological species name consisting of 2 terms. Binomial is an adjective. Binomially is an adverb. This is from Middle Latin, the neutral of binomius, which means having 2 names. It's an alternative of the Latin binominis, which is from the bi prefix plus nomen or nomen, which means name. And there's more at the word name. Now we have binomial coefficient, 2 words. We've got some mathy stuff coming up with this one and a few more. This is a noun from 1876, a coefficient of a term in the expansion of the binomial x plus y in parentheses to the n power, according to the binomial theorem. We'll get to the binomial theorem shortly. Now we have binomial distribution, 2 words, noun from 1911, a probability function, each of whose values gives the probability that an outcome with constant probability of occurrence in a statistical experiment will occur, a given number of times in a succession of repetitions of the experiment. I feel like there might have been a simpler way to say that, but I guess they got to be specific. Each of whose values was it like flipping a coin? Would that be binomial distribution? I don't know. I have no idea what I just read. Moving on to binomial nomenclature. Noun from 1880. A system of nomenclature in which each species of animal or plant receives a name of two terms in which the first identifies the genus to which it belongs and the second the species itself. I can understand this a lot better. But we see this all the time when I'm talking about an animal of some kind or an insect or a plant. The scientific name is two usually Latin words. I cannot find an example, but you know what I'm talking about. I love it in like Warner Brothers cartoons. They would usually in like Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner cartoons, they would show the species name, but it was always something really weird and goofy and funny because cartoons are great. Now we have binomial theorem, 2 words, noun from 1753. A theorem that specifies the expansion of a binomial of the form x plus y, which is in parentheses, then it's to the n power, as the sum of n plus 1 terms of which the general term is of the form. Again, I have no idea what I just read, but it shows the form, which I will describe to you in a minute, and then it finishes up the sentence by saying where k, the letter k, takes on values from 0 to n. All right, I'm going to describe this. Some of you are going to love it, some of you are going to hate it, but let us do it. So, first we have a section that's there's a division symbol, there's a numerator and a denominator. The numerator is n with an exclamation point at the end of it, and that stands for, what is it called? Factorial? Is that what it is? N factorial? Oh, I can't remember, but I think that might be it. So n with an exclamation mark, that's the numerator. The denominator has in parentheses n minus k. Then there's the exclamation point after that. Is it exclamation point or exclamation mark? Have I asked this before? Is it both? Is it one of them? I say both. Anyway, then that is multiplied by k factorial, the exclamation point. Then that whole part, the numerator and the denominator, that is multiplied by x. And then x has a power. It's got a name. It's a thing. It's to the something power. But the thing in the power section, the superscript, is in parentheses n minus k. And then that whole part, x to that power, is multiplied by y to the k power. Got it? Good. We are moving on to bint, B-I-N-T, noun from 1855. It is British, and it's the synonyms are girl and woman. They call girls and women bints? Okay. It looks like it's an Arabic word, which means girl or daughter. I wonder how that became a thing in British language. Now we have binucleate or binucleate. It is a, where'd it go? Adjective from 1881, having 2 cellular nuclei, as in binucleate hepatocytes. Hepatocytes, I think that's the word. Now we have the word bio, B-I-O, noun from 1947, a biography or biographical sketch. Now we have the prefix bio, and it just says to see the prefix bi, B-I, which we read a while ago, and bio was another possible spelling of that, depending on the context. Now we have bioacoustics, noun from 1957, a branch of science concerned with the production of sound by and its effects on living organisms. Bioacoustician is a noun. That's the one who deals with the bioacoustics. A branch of science concerned with the production of sound. So it's like studying like the sounds of dolphins and the sounds of whales. And that's super fascinating, actually. Every once in a while, I'll listen to birds, and it's just fascinating. Just go outside and just listen to birds and just think about the fact that they are making that sound for a reason. They are either mating purposes or communication to other birds to say something. It is fascinating, and all birds have different sounds that they make. I heard that turkeys have like a crazy large vocabulary in their turkey language, and some dude figured it out and could actually speak to them a little bit in their turkey language. I want to learn how to speak turkey. All right, now we have bioactive, adjective from 1965, having an effect on a living organism, as in bioactive molecules. Bioactivity is a noun. Now we have bioassay, one word, noun, 1912, determination of the relative strength of a substance as a drug by comparing its effects on a test organism with that of a standard preparation. Bioassay is also a transitive verb. Now we have bioavailability, noun from 1971, the degree and rate at which a substance, as a drug, is absorbed into a living system or is made available at the site of physiological activity. Bioavailable is an adjective. And here we go with the last word of the episode, biobehavioral, biobehavioral, adjective from 1970, of relating to or involving the interaction of behavior and biological processes. I was not super interested in most of these words, but that's just me. Let's see. I think I want to pick bioacoustics as the word of the episode because I think that was pretty obvious that I like that one the best. But, binoculars are awesome. And, binomial theorem, that's just, that's a good one. It's a real good one. That is all I got to say. Anything interesting going on? Probably not. The weather's getting nice. I just went for a long walk, longish walk. That's all. This has been Spencer dispensing information. Goodbye. Hello, all you word nerds. You have turned on the best podcast in the world, according to my cat, who is just staring at me. She had a little accident when I started to record the previous episode. I actually ended up stopping and starting up again because I had to clean up the water. She sort of fell on her water bowl. I won't get into the details, but she tried to hop up on a ledge, and she didn't make it. She fell down, but she's okay. I think she's sleepy. All right, the first word is biocatalyst, biocatalyst, noun from circa 1925. A catalyst as an enzyme of biological origin. Biocatalysis is a noun, and biocatalytic is an adjective. Now we have biocenosis. You could spell it one of two ways, or two of two ways. Biocenosis or Biocoenosis. It is a noun from 1883. An ecological community, especially when forming a self-regulating unit. This is from, the prefix bi, the second form of it, plus the Greek koinosis, Koinosis, which means sharing, from koinoun. I want to learn how to speak Greek. I'm not pronouncing these words correctly. I know that. Koinoun means to make common, which is from koinos, which means common. Now we have biocentric, adjective from circa 1889, considering all forms of life as having intrinsic value. Biocentrism is a noun. I like this word. Yes, all forms of life have intrinsic value of some kind. Some people don't get that. Next we have biochemical, adjective from 1851, one of or relating to biochemistry. Number 2, characterized by, produced by, or involving chemical reactions in living organisms, as in a biochemical defect in the brain. Biochemical is a noun, and biochemically is an adverb. I don't know why I just ran through that little portion there. I actually think that I have a biochemical defect in my brain. That's not even a joke. I definitely think that I've got some issues going on. Next, we have biochemical oxygen demand. 3 words, noun from circa 1927. The oxygen used in meeting the metabolic needs of aerobic microorganisms in water rich in organic matter, as water polluted with sewage. Yep. Next, we have biochemistry, noun from 1848. 1. Chemistry that deals with the chemical compounds and processes occurring in organisms. I lost my place. Yep, that's the end of that sentence. Number 2. The chemical characteristics and reactions of a particular living organism or biological substance. Biochemist is a noun, and it's the person who does that work. Biochip is next. Noun from 1980. Is this related to the show Chips? Probably not. 1. A hypothetical computer logic circuit or storage device in which the physical or chemical properties of large biological molecules, as proteins, are used to process information. Number 2, synonym is microarray. Is that how you pronounce it? It's all one word. Microarray. Microarray. Next we have biocidal. Biocidal. This is an adjective from 1949, and it means destructive to life. So something that is biocidal is going to destroy all life, or just life, a form of life, some life, maybe not all of it. Now we have biocide, similar word. It is a noun from 1947, a substance as DDT that is destructive to many different organisms. Don't ingest DDT. Next, we have bioclimatic, adjective from 1918, of or relating to the relations of climate and living matter, as in bioclimatic adaptations. I want to say bioclimactic, but that is not at all what that word is. It's close, but no. Next, we have biocompatibility, noun from 1971, compatibility with living tissue or a living system by not being toxic, injurious, or physiologically reactive and not causing immunological rejection. Biocompatible is an adjective, so you gotta make sure that you have the right blood type. We were just watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine. This was a few days ago, and at the end of the episode, Jake Peralta says to his girlfriend, "Do you know what blood type I am?" He's actually sitting in an EMT with an IV in, and she says, "Yeah, it's B positive." And he pulls out his IV, and he's like, "Hey, I need some new blood," because he's such a goofball in that show. But his blood type that he told them was incompatible. It was not biocompatible to what he should have needed. Next is biocontainment, noun from 1985. The containment of extremely pathogenic organisms, as viruses, usually by isolation in secure facilities to prevent their accidental release, especially during research. Well, this is something that has come up because a lot of people think, and I guess technically it's possible, but they're pretty sure this is not what happened. This coronavirus that we're living through at the moment, there are some people who think that it was accidentally released from a lab, and so the biocontainment messed up. They screwed up. I don't necessarily think that is what happened. I think that it probably did come from one of those wet markets with animals and stuff. But it is entirely possible. I mean, people have been, I think, studying this virus and other ones for a long time. It's been around for a while. But I think what they have definitely said is not true is that it was designed in a lab and then was released. That is not the case. Now we have biocontrol, noun from 1967, and the synonym is biological control, which will be the last word of 2 episodes from now. Next is bioconversion, noun from 1960, the conversion of organic materials as wastes into an energy source as methane by processes as fermentation involving living organisms. There were 3 parts with parentheses, so I'm just going to read it without the parentheses. The conversion of organic materials into an energy source by processes involving living organisms. It's fascinating that that's possible. Now we have biodefense, noun from 1987, the means or methods of preventing, detecting, or managing an attack involving biological weapons. That is scary. Next, we have biodegradable. Adjective from 1961, capable of being broken down, especially into innocuous products, by the action of living things as microorganisms, as in biodegradable trash bags. Biodegradability is a noun. That means it's able to be biodegraded. Noun. That's a noun. Biodegradable. Oh no, biodegradability would be the I'm not even going to get into it. Biodegradable is a noun, biodegradation is a noun, and biodegrade is a verb. We need more stuff that's biodegradable. Luckily, we are starting to see more of it. To-go containers from restaurants, plastic bottles and things like that, we really need more biodegradable stuff because the what is the word I'm thinking of? The not the junkyards, not the trash yards, but the place where they go throw all the garbage dumps, that is just sitting there for decades and centuries, and it's not biodegrading. And so it's just taking up space, and it's putting bad stuff into the air, into the ground, and we just make lots of crap. Plastic specifically is terrible, and so if you could make some biodegradable plastic, that would be great. I've heard of water bottles being made from hemp, which is an amazing plant that can do so many things. You can make paper and plastics and clothes and tons of stuff from it, and it's biodegradable because it comes from the earth. Next, we have biodeterioration. I'm wondering if this is similar. Noun from 1953. The breakdown of materials by microbial action. So yeah, similar, but not exactly the same. Next and last word is biodiesel. Biodiesel. Noun from 1986. A fuel that is similar to diesel fuel and is derived from usually vegetable sources, as soybean oil. I don't really know what diesel fuel is. I've never had a diesel car. I also never learned how to drive a manual car. I feel like those sort of go hand in hand. When people know those things, they tend to know about diesel and why it's maybe better or worse or whatever. So I don't really know a lot of details about diesel fuel. But I do kind of think that biodiesel is probably better because it's probably more renewable and probably better for the environment, etc., etc. What is the bio? I think I'm going to do biocentric as my word of the episode. What's your word of the episode? Do you have thoughts? Do you have opinions? Send me an email, send me a message. All the information is in the episode description. But yeah, that is that. I am going to end this episode right now because I got to go record another one. Thank you for listening. Rate and review, share all the stuff. This has been Spencer dispensing information. Goodbye. Hello, word nerds. Welcome to another very special episode of the Dictionary Podcast. It is special because I have another guest. As I have mentioned before, this is something that I'm trying to do more frequently. I've been contacting a bunch of people. So today we have Becky. How are you doing, Becky?
Doing all right. How about you?
I'm good. I'm very happy to have you on this podcast. And for just to be perfectly transparent with everybody, I am recording this out of order. The previous two episodes, the ones that you guys heard for the last 2 days, I have not actually recorded yet. So I didn't want Becky to have to comment on words like binucleate or biochemical oxygen demand. I think we've got something that she might feel a little bit more comfortable commenting on. So Becky, the one of the main goals for having guests on is to help promote them, to give you a place where you can talk about something that you're working on, a project, whatever you want. So what have you got to plug for us today and all my listeners?
Well, I have been working on a little side hustle art and design business. I am a graphic design major, but I've been interested in fine arts and drawing and painting since I've been a little kid. I'm also a huge animal lover and a big pet nerd. So when all the pandemic stuff went down and I lost my job at a restaurant as a bartender and server, I decided to take matters in my own hands and start doing some pet portraits just to make a little bit of extra money on the side. And it's kind of taken off a bit. I have a decent decent portfolio of clients. So I've been working in mostly water and color and ink right now, but a little multimedia acrylic as well with some 3D elements in some of the pieces. And I have a little business called Becky Blue Designs, and it focuses mainly on pet portraiture. So I do dogs, I do cats. I've done only dogs and cats up till now, but I am definitely willing to do any other kind of animal. I've drawn other animals in the past. So if you got lizards, you got hamsters, rabbits, I can do those too. Becky Blue Designs. And if you want to find me, I am on Facebook at Becky Blue Designs. So
Awesome. And I will I'll post a link to that in the episode description. And of course, because I post stuff on Instagram, I will post a couple example pictures of your work as well. So if you want to send me something later, that would be awesome. I have seen some photos of these portraits, and they are absolutely amazing. The quality of her work is stellar. I thought that I saw some watercolors. I didn't realize you did some acrylic and some sort of 3D stuff. So that is super awesome.
Thanks. Well, I really appreciate the support, and I'll send you over some stuff. So
awesome. Yeah. Hopefully you can get some other animals in there, like pigs and llamas and camels.
I would love to. So if anybody, is listening to this podcast and has an oddball pet, get a hold of me. I would love to draw some other little critters and beasties. So
that's awesome. And we have 2 cats, so we might have to hit you up on that.
Oh,
sounds
for
like
sure.
you've been a little bit busy. But hey, it's good work, and I hope that you get some more from this.
Well, thank you much.
Of course. All right. Should we talk about some words?
Let's do some word stuff.
All right. This is the weirdest podcast in the world. Okay. The first word for this episode is biodiversity. Speaking of animals and stuff, it is spelled, just because I like to spell the first and the last words, biodiversity. The word is similar to university. So I want to go to a biodiversity university. I don't know. That was a terrible joke. Okay, so this one is a noun from 1985. The definition says biological diversity in an environment as indicated by numbers of different species of plants and animals. And biodiverse is an adjective.
Adjective. Well, I would like to get a little more biodiversity in my art portfolio. There's a lot of biodiversity in my front lawn right now, too. We have a lot of weeds, probably making my neighbors angry. So,
Now, what sort of animals are in your front lawn?
I don't know. Probably a lot of bugs. We got a couple of birds. We got a lot of stray dogs and stray cats. That's for sure. Raccoons. Seen a coyote. There actually was deer running around at one point, which is strange because we do live in kind of a more, I'd say semi-urban, suburban area. So, but we sometimes like to go for little walks and look at the animals in the neighborhood at night, which are, like I said, mainly raccoons and strays. So
yeah, do I remember hearing some story about like a skunk or something that happened? Or am I mixing up my animal?
There's usually a lot of skunks around here. I haven't really smelled them this season that much. We used to have a couple neighbor dogs, though, that would get skunked all the time. So they're definitely around. Oh, there was one year when we first moved in, we had a ton of skunks. And we'd go for walks at night. And once again, we'd turn a corner and there'd be a skunk doing its little stompy thing. We're like, oh, okay, we're moving, we're going, we're leaving. So yeah, there've been a few skunk incidents, but not recently, not as much as when we first moved in around here. So
yeah, you got to just walk the other way when you see a skunk.
Yeah, I don't mess with them. I don't need to smell like a skunk.
No.
Especially for what I do. So.
Yeah. All right, we are going to move on to the next word. It is biodynamic. Obviously, we are in the section of the prefix bio. This is an adjective from 1939, of or relating to a system of farming that uses only organic materials for fertilizing and soil conditioning. Biodynamics is also a noun. Do you do any gardening or farming or anything like that?
We do. We have a couple little garden beds out in front of our house, and his aunt and uncle put them in as a wedding gift for us. And we've been trying to do some organic farming the past few years. The first year went well. I actually think they used some organics. They have a little compost heap they'll bring, and they got chickens, so I think they used some chicken poop. It's supposed to be good fertilizer too. But we haven't had very good luck the past couple years. I don't know if it's our biodynamic fertilizer isn't working well, or if we just suck at gardening. But we've had a couple bunk harvests. We're hoping we have better luck this year. Weather's been weird too. So, but yeah, we do definitely try to grow some food, and we got some good herbs. The kale plant really did well. Lasted for a couple years. We had a couple herb plants last well. But yeah, the tomatoes, they always just, I don't know, hasn't worked out very well for us. I have a brown thumb. I'm horrible at that kind of plant stuff. I'm more of an animal person than a plant person for sure.
Yeah, I think I would do a terrible job if I had a garden. Yeah, I remember once we were over there and you showed us some little peppers that you were growing. I think that might have been a few years ago.
Yeah, we did. That was one of the first harvests we had. We had some potted pepper plants, and they did awesome. We had a really hot summer, though, so I think they liked the weather. We tried a couple of them years after that, and we'll get a decent harvest. But like we did some serranos last year, and I think we got like 5 peppers off the whole plant. Green peppers, same thing, a couple of them, and then like something will eat one of them, and you won't get like 2. I don't know. Like I said, bad luck. Tom does love his pepper plants, though. We will be planting some more of those this year, so hopefully we get a summer where we can actually get a good harvest out of them. So
yeah, 2020 is just a terrible year in general. So I'm hoping, you have a good harvest and everything is much better next year.
Something's got to go right with this year, so maybe that'll be it.
Yeah, maybe. All right.
So we'll get lucky.
Our next word is bioelectric. Those are not 2 parts of the word that I would expect to go together. It could also be bioelectrical. This is an adjective from 1914. Of or relating to electric phenomena in living organisms. Bioelectricity is a noun. So I'm guessing the first one I can think of would be the electric eel.
Yeah, and it's funny. I just watched like a little like video. We watch a lot of YouTube. There's a show called Animal Logic that we watch all the time, and they just did a little mini documentary on bioelectric organisms. And yeah, definitely the electric eel. I think there were some species of I know sharks use the electromagnetic stuff on their nose. There are a few other ones that I can't remember off the top of my head. There's a bunch of them that use electricity either to stun prey or to stimulate prey to come closer to them, and it's kind of an interesting phenomenon.
Yeah, isn't it? Maybe is it the anglerfish or something that has that like little light at the end?
That is bioluminescence, I want to say.
Yeah,
that's when they actually light up, and there's chemicals with that. But the electrical is where they're actually producing an electric current with their body. And I know the eels are a big one. I can't remember what. There are a couple other animals that do it. Oh, actually, platypus. I think the duck-billed platypus actually has. If I'm recalling correctly, there's something electrical about it. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm honestly talking out of my behind here.
Those creatures are so weird that I would not be surprised, and that does remind me that, it sort of sounds familiar that I feel like I have heard that they have some sort of electrical thing in them.
I know they got spurs too. They got like poison, or they're venomous, but like something about bioelectrical on that one too. Now I got to look it up again.
Yeah.
Now
it's funny that you mentioned the duck-billed platypus, because the last episode that I had with guests on the duck-billed platypus was brought up at that time as well.
It's just a weird. I mean, what isn't interesting about that animal? I don't understand what how that thing was evolved.
Crazy animal. Yeah, now I really want to know if they have a bioelectricity in them.
Now I got to look this up. Bioelectric platypus.
And how funny that you just watched a show about bioelectric animals.
It wasn't too long ago, and of course I can't remember anything, but it was everything kind of blurs together during this quarantine. It could have been like 2 months ago during the quarantine, and it was like yesterday.
Yeah, I don't remember anything from 5 minutes ago even. But we are going to move forward and talk about bioenergetics. Bioenergetics. This is an interesting one. This is a noun from 1912. We have a couple definitions. Number 1. The biology of energy transformations and energy exchanges, as in photosynthesis, within and between living things and their environments. And then number 2 says, a system of physical and psychological, I want to make sure it's not physiological, it says psychological therapy that is held to increase well-being by releasing blocked physical and psychic energy. And bioenergetic is an adjective.
Is that like Reiki, or is that how you pronounce it? Reiki, like people who work with like energy, like they're supposed to be able to like feel your aura or something. You go in and they put their hands over you and they they unblock your chakras or something. I don't know if
Yeah,
that's the second
I
one,
think
but-
that's how it's pronounced. I have never had Reiki done, but I'm feel pretty confident that based on that number 2 definition, that's probably how they would describe it. Yeah, photosynthesis. I mean, that's something that's happening all the time, plants and trees, and I guess it's called bioenergetics.
Interesting. Huh. I had no idea. I guess something you're making energy out of. Yeah, well, you got the chlorophyll, you got the sun. So
Yep.
interesting.
All right, our next word is bioengineer. This is a much simpler concept for my brain. This one is...
Yeah, I know. Some of these are like, what?
Yeah. So this is a transitive verb from 1951, to modify or produce by bioengineering, as in bioengineered insulin. Bioengineer is also a noun. I'm wondering why they chose to put in the verb version in here and not the noun version. I guess the noun version would just say something like the person who does bioengineering, so they might as well put the verb in there. Yeah.
Somebody who bioengineers, because like even the bioengineer, I guess you got to go back down. You got to go down to bioengineering to figure out what the bioengineer even does. So
Yep.
I guess, just no redundancy, I guess.
Do you know any bioengineers? I don't think I do.
I don't think I know anybody who actually does like bioengineering. Maybe I do, and I just don't know enough about their job to know that that's what they actually do. But yeah, I have no clue. You got me on that one. I would think it would be people who do like, yeah, you said bioengineering, what, insulin?
Yeah, that
Or,
was that was one of the examples. Yeah, like insulin is bioengineered.
You got me on that. Couldn't tell you.
Well,
Maybe I do, maybe I don't. Maybe if somebody listens to this and they're a bioengineer, let me know.
yeah, call in, let us know. So if you want to learn a little bit more about bioengineering, that is our next word. It is a noun from circa 1954. So the word bioengineer came out in 1951, but bioengineering didn't come out until 1954. Again, we have a couple definitions for this one. Number 1, biological or medical application of engineering principles or engineering equipment, called also biomedical engineering. And then we have number 2, the application of biological techniques as genetic recombination to create modified versions of organisms as crops. Crops is an example of that. And then we have especially the synonym genetic engineering. So genetic engineering, I guess, is a form of bioengineering.
Well, yeah, like genetically GMOs, things like that. So people who work for like Monsanto and places like that, or the people who cloned sheep probably too.
Oh, yeah.
That's got to be some kind of genetic engineering going on.
Yep, I'm sure they would be considered bioengineers. And the funny thing,
Cloning people.
the thing that I realized, or that I realized about GMOs, is that technically everything is a genetically modified organism. You know, we've bred
For sure.
dogs and even bananas. I mean, the original form of banana was something that wasn't really edible by humans, and they just bred it
course.
over and over again to be something that we could actually eat. So
Another thing about bananas, they're actually, all the bananas that live right now are actually clones, like the same bananas. They're called Cavendish, I believe. There was a banana that they used to grow in the 50s, and it got some kind of fungi or some parasite or some bug or something attacked it and killed them all. And they had to restart with another crop of bananas, because I think the way they don't actually have seeds, because they don't have seeds, they have to actually clone the plants. So every banana you eat is actually like a clone of the same banana like tree that they split over and over again. And the breed that's like most popular is the Cavendish, and that's the one you get in the stores all the time. But yeah, that definitely, the bananas used to have like massive seeds in them, and they were barely edible. And pretty much everything we've agriculturally crossbred, I mean, our cats and dogs and you name it, any kind of livestock. I mean, it doesn't mean you're going in and messing with the genes with like test
Right.
tubes and, splicing. It just means you're crossbreeding stuff. So yeah, definitely GMOs are just anything that we've futzed with over the years, and used to produce things that are better, easier to eat, or dogs that are working dogs that have certain traits, things like that. Like Basset Hound is a GMO.
It is. It's so funny to look at all the different breeds of dogs, and then you look and like thousands of years ago, they just all came from the wolf. Every single breed of dog came from wolf, from Great Danes to little teacup whatevers, and
And it's interesting, like it didn't happen. It didn't take that long because what did we domesticate them like 10,000 years ago or something like that? So in the course of that time, it's been like insane the amount of things we've done to dogs just by crossbreeding them and selective breeding them, and it's pretty insane. Like the poor little pugs with their little flat smooshy faces. So
yeah, you look at pictures of a breed of dog even just from 100 years ago, and it looks surprisingly different.
For sure. It's crazy how quick. Well, even those, what did they do with the foxes in Russia? The guy that did the fox project that had the silver foxes that he would crossbreed, and he'd only pick the friendliest ones, and that's only been going on. I think it's still happening. It's some guy out there. They own like a fox breeding place, and they try to breed domestic foxes, and even the ones that have the most domestic traits, like the friendliest, nicest ones, they'll crossbreed with each other, and they start showing things like spotted coats and curly tails and all the stuff we start seeing in dog species, so it's pretty nuts how that's happened. Now there's cats on the other hand here. I'm looking at my two. They haven't changed much since the sand cat, but they don't really work for us that much, except for catching mice. So it's not really traits you want to breed in and out of them. You're like, oh, that looks kind of cool. I think that's the only reason we want to breed cats is because they look cool. Other than that, they're like, we ain't working for you.
No, cats don't give a crap.
No, they don't.
Well,
we don't work for humans.
We could talk all day about animals because we're both huge animal lovers.
Yeah, I'll just start going off.
Yeah, me too. But we are going to move on to bioequivalence. This is an interesting word. It is a noun from 1977. The property wherein two drugs with identical active ingredients or two different dosage forms of the same drug possess similar bioavailability and produce the same effect at the site of physiological activity. Bioequivalent is an adjective. So is it just saying that there are two drugs that in two different dosage forms will do the same thing or something?
I'm assuming, or like two different drugs that do the same thing, or they have identical active ingredients.
Yeah,
maybe they're like
but they
different
have different
drugs.
dosage forms. Interesting concept.
Interesting. I don't know much about that. I don't know. I guess there's only so much coffee I could drink, so I guess I have no idea.
All right, you should do an experiment. You get one coffee, and then the next day try another coffee and see if they have a bioequivalence. If you have the same effect.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll compare the different brands of Intelligentsia I drink and see what happens. So, the different varieties of Intelligentsia. So,
well, not all of these words are winners. There's not always stuff to say about them. So
sometimes I got a wet. So
yeah, I got nothing.
Okay.
So next word is bioethics. This one's interesting. Noun from 1971. A discipline dealing with the ethical implications of biological research and applications, especially in medicine. Bioethical is an adjective, and bioethicist is a noun. So that's somebody who just literally, that's probably their job, is dealing with the ethical implications of biological research and applications.
Now, do they listen to these bioethicists, or is it like somebody they hire? Like, should we do this or shouldn't we do this? Kind of like Jurassic Park, where should we, what was it? Jeff Goldblum said the scientists were so interested in whether or not they could that they didn't think about whether or not they should. So I guess they got somebody like Jeff Goldblum telling them what to do or something. Is that why they hired him? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that was his official job title, but he was definitely acting.
He was a mathematician.
Yeah. He dealt with chaos theory and crazy stuff.
All that stuff. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you got to have somebody telling you because there's some psychos out there. I mean, they'd be like crossbreeding sheep with well, let's keep grandma's brain alive in this sheep. Stuff like that.
You got to call in a bioethicist to say, nah, maybe you shouldn't do that.
Probably a bad idea. We should just don't do this one. Just stop. This is going to end up bad.
All right. Our next word is biofeedback. Noun from 1970. The technique of making unconscious or involuntary bodily processes, as heartbeats or brainwaves, perceptible to the senses, as by the use of an oscilloscope, in order to manipulate them by conscious mental control. Ooh, this sounds so interesting.
That sounds kind of cool. I've never, and I know they do the biofeedback kind of treatment, but is it kind of like, meditation where you can kind of control your heart rate or where you try to control your breathing?
Yeah.
Or isn't that kind of like biofeedback techniques you can use by yourself doing that kind of thing? It's kind of interesting. I want to control my heartbeat.
Yeah, I've got an Apple Watch, and on the Apple Watch, you can it'll check your heart rate. And so sometimes I'll just look at it, and then I'll sort of either do deep breathing to try and slow down my heart rate, or maybe just think a little bit harder and see if I can adjust it a little bit. I mean, I think even just with breathing quicker or slower, you can definitely adjust your heart rate. But I've never done it with an oscilloscope. But also brainwaves, changing your brainwaves.
Yeah, right.
That sounds cool.
That's very interesting. Like trying to control maybe the way well, I guess it's brainwaves that control all of your involuntary muscle movements and all your smooth muscle and all that stuff. So I guess it makes sense. Your brain's working to control all that somehow.
Yeah, and I mean, meditating, you're definitely changing your brainwaves the more you do that.
Mm-hmm. For sure. So they say. Interesting stuff. We'll look into that a little bit more.
Yeah. All right, our next word is biofilm. This is one word. It's spelled like the film that you watch in a movie theater. This is a noun from 1981. A thin, usually resistant layer of microorganisms, as bacteria, that form on and coat various surfaces. Now, obviously, that had nothing to do with movies. I was just trying to give you an example of how it was spelled. A thin layer of microorganisms. Doesn't sound like something that I want. Interesting.
Yeah, it seems like the scuzz that forms on the bottom of the cat's water dish if you don't clean it every day, like the slimy stuff that gets on there. Like, I don't know. I say biofilm. Sure, I think I do now recall useful properties of it. Like there's certain stuff that they use it for that it helps protect against other things, and I don't know the ins and outs of it though. So
yeah, if you've got like a milk or something or some sort of liquid or whatever, there's always it gets that little film on top if it sits too long. And now I'm gonna try and remember to start calling it a biofilm, the appropriate name for it, instead of just a film.
Exactly.
I wonder if the microorganisms on our body would be considered a biofilm. Probably not, but
yeah, more like, well, I don't know, it says usually resistant, but then don't they say you could like scrub off the layer of, because you're not supposed to shower every day for that reason, because you're supposed to have like skin bacteria that supposedly protects you against getting infections and rashes and stuff.
I must have an amazing biofilm on me then.
Well, I haven't showered yet today, so I got somewhat of a biofilm, but I can't go too long. I don't know how people don't shower for a week. Like, oh God, no. Like, and yeah, I think the part of the reason you smell bad is because like the bad bacteria can build up on you. So once you develop like that layer of like protective microbes, like the good bacteria on your skin, it's supposed to help, I think, with you stinking. But in the meantime, you got to walk around and stink. And I just don't know how great that would be. I don't know.
Yeah, I couldn't go more than a day or two, I think.
Yeah, no, me neither.
But during this quarantine, there's a lot of people who I think are showering less.
Yeah, they say, I mean, maybe if I wasn't working out every day, but that's another thing. Like you're sweating and you're getting smelly, and I just would be a disgusting, greasy stink ball. And like I said, I wait tables and bartend for a living. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants that at all.
Well,
so.
I'm sure that people want to hear us talking more about how stinky we are, but we
smelly biofilm.
Right. We are going to move on to bioflavonoid, or actually it's bioflavonoid. This is a noun from 1952. Any of various biologically active flavonoids, as hesperidin and quercetin, derived from plants and found especially in fruits and vegetables as citrus fruits. I've heard of flavonoid, but I haven't heard of bioflavonoid.
Yeah, right. Maybe that's just made by a plant, flavonoids. As flavonoids, and they use that in like when you're making like artificial flavorings and things like that. I think there was a big thing like, weren't they saying there's certain flavonoids and like, I don't know, were they saying, I can't remember what like dangerous, was it pesticides had it in there or something, just because it sounded like a chemical. They were saying the same, LaCroix has the same kind of chemicals as your pesticide. I'm like, well, yeah, but it's like something that comes from an orange. And
right.
A lot of times I think a lot of times citrus fruits develop those to protect them against bugs and stuff too. Like a lot of fruits and vegetables naturally have pesticides that occur. I don't know if it's a flavonoid or not. Maybe I'm guessing on this one.
It probably is. And the couple examples that they gave are hesperidin, that is spelled Hesperidin, and the other one was quercetin, Quercetin. I like to spell some of those weird words because I have never seen those words before.
Yeah, I wouldn't even know how to go about pronouncing that correctly.
I probably screwed it up. Our next word is biofouling, Fouling. This is a noun from 1943. The gradual accumulation of waterborne organisms, as bacteria and protozoa, on the surfaces of engineering structures in water that contributes to corrosion of the structure and to a decrease in the efficiency of moving parts.
Interesting. I could see things being underwater and getting kind of nasty. Do the barnacles? You know, they say they're on the ships and they can mess things up. I don't know if they're not bacteria or protozoa, but like when ships get covered in barnacles and like you got to scrape them off, otherwise it could mess up stuff. So yeah, a lot of little critters in that water probably don't want near your.
No. It does say waterborne organisms, bacteria, protozoa, so I don't know if the barnacles would be considered, but I mean, they are definitely waterborne organisms, so they might be considered biofouling. Interesting.
Yeah. That I don't know. I'm not working in a shipyard, so or with engineering equipment like building bridges and stuff. I'm sure
it's something that they have to think about.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, it's something you don't even think about. You're like, oh, I'm just gonna build this in water. Oh crap, it doesn't work anymore. Stupid microorganisms.
Doing the biofouling. All right, our next word is biofuel, like the gas in your car. This one is a noun from 1970. A fuel, as wood or ethanol, composed of or produced from biological raw materials, and then compared to fossil fuel. I think that's the same thing, fossil fuel and biofuel.
I guess a biofuel is just a really young fossil fuel, if you think about it that way. I mean, fossil fuel basically used to be a biofuel. It's usually plants or stuff that was smushed, like carbon from dead, rotting trees that were in a swamp, and interesting stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, you got your corn, you got your ethanol, things like that. So
I didn't realize you can make biofuel from wood. I mean, I know, wood burns and there's energy, but
I think you could somehow get alcohol out of wood, I think, or there's some way to do it. Yeah, I think there's anything you can probably get alcohol out of, you could probably make a biofuel out of if it burns like that. So I would think anything that decomposes or can ferment or stuff like that.
Yeah.
Interesting stuff.
I like seeing that there's a lot more of electric cars and things like that, alternative fuel sources, because we definitely cannot keep on going with the fossil fuels and the oils the way that the world is going.
Yeah, we could figure something else out. It's just that certain people don't want to.
It's all about money.
Yeah, it all is. There's somebody like, well, wait a minute, what's going to happen to my big giant empire? So yeah, I believe we're one of the most innovative. We are the most innovative species on the planet. Well, I mean, I don't know what the dolphins are doing that I don't know about, but yeah, we could figure something else out. I am under that notion too. It's just we could, but certain people don't want to.
Yeah,
so.
I think dolphins have some secret underwater science labs where they're working on new stuff.
They do. They're looking to get out of here. Just like, what was it, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy?
Yeah.
They're like, peace out. We're leaving now. So.
All right. Our next word is an abbreviation. It's the word biog, B-I-O-G. It is an abbreviation for biographer, biographical, or biography. That's it for that one.
All right.
All right. We are going to do one more.
Self-explanatory.
We're going to do one more for this episode. It is biogas. This is something that I have a lot of. It is spelled...
You just said gas. I'm laughing now. So
yeah. It is spelled B-I-O-G-A-S. It is a noun from 1971, a mixture of methane and carbon dioxide produced by the bacterial decomposition of organic wastes and used as a fuel. Oh, if I could use my farts as a fuel, that would be amazing.
see, and there we have it. I mean, how many farts? I mean, all you got to do is live in my house, and we could probably power this whole block. I mean, it's like, come on, man. Everybody powers their own.
I really hope that scientists are working on this technology.
They better, man. They totally better. And actually, I think I was one other stupid, like I said, I like the YouTube documentaries, and we were actually reading something about biofuel and converting sewage waste into usable energy. And there are a whole lot of problems with it, but I think they are working on it. So it would be nice to, I mean, we got a whole lot of it, man. We've got to be able to do something with that. Otherwise, it's just sitting there going to waste. Why waste perfectly good farts?
Maybe that's what the dolphins are working on.
Yeah, they got a little thing. They're working on that. That's how they're getting out of here, man. That's their main fuel source. Stupid humans keep dumping their waste into the oceans. We'll show them.
Most humans don't realize that dolphins are very farty.
Are very what?
Very farty.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they are. So is everything, man. Except for my cats. I don't know. Do cats fart? I don't hear them. I never really.
It's
sometimes
rare.
It smells, but you're like, it's a cat. It's not like dogs. Dogs are a different story. Dogs stink. I love dogs, but they're stinky.
And on that note, I am actually going to have you pick your word of the episode. And if you want, I can just read through the words again to give you a reminder. And you can use whatever criteria you want. You could pick your favorite, pick whatever you want. So if you want, I can read you the list.
Actually, we had some good, maybe biogas because it made me laugh.
I think that's a perfect word.
Biogas is great. I mean, who doesn't laugh at farts? I'm sorry. Had to go there.
Yeah, I love toilet humor. So that's it. That is the end of the episode. Thank you for doing this. I know it's a little bit awkward over the phone. It's not in person. There's a little bit of a delay, but you did an awesome job talking about all of these strange words. And of course, to all my listeners, I hope you go check out Becky's work, her amazing pet portraits, and again, I'll post a picture.
Well, thank you very much, Spencer, and I hope we all get to hang out and do this in person again soon. I definitely am looking forward to hanging and eating and drinking and talking about bioengineering.
Yeah, someday
whatever else.
We'll sit in the lawn, 6 to 10 feet apart or something, and we'll hang out.
Exactly. So we'll have a little maybe they'll figure out biofilm to protect us. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'd figure that out somehow.
So that is the end of the episode. Thank you to everybody for listening. And until next time, this has been Spencer dispensing information. Goodbye. Hello, word nerds. Welcome to another special episode of the podcast called The Dictionary. Yesterday's episode, you heard from Becky. She was my guest, my commenter. And on today's episode, we have her husband, Tom. Tom, how you doing?
Not bad. How's it going? Thanks for having me on this show.
I am doing very well. I'm very happy to have both of you as guests and guests in general. Before I forget, I want to make sure that we talk about whatever it is that you want to talk about, you want to plug, you want to promote. So what are you doing that the people should know about?
I have a couple different things, if it's okay if I triple plug.
Please.
Excellent. I am a musician. I'm a music teacher. I do host a podcast and a local music radio show of my own. So I'm in a band called Colonel Chloroform. I play guitar with those guys. You can find us on all the usual places. It's eclectic kind of rock. It's basically just rock. All forms of the genre, I suppose. I'm also in a band called John Condren and the Old Gang Orchestra. With those guys, we do have an album out in all the usual places. Also, everything I play is just rock. I play bass in that band. You could also find Alex Hoffer, the Alex Hoffer Band, I think he's called, online. And you have to go to his site to find our latest recording. And the podcast I host is called What's Going Down in Downtown J-Town. There is an outstanding music scene in downtown Joliet, a lot of really supportive and talented veteran musicians, songwriters. Everyone's playing all their own stuff. We play covers. We're not, too cool to play a song that we like or something like that. But these are artists that are definitely giving everything they have into what they do, and they're very serious about it, and they're really talented. And originally my co-host and I, Dave Francis, just wanted to document it. We didn't want this whole thing to pass us by with no record of it ever taking place. So we decided to do this podcast, and then we started interviewing other people, doing things that were great in the community. And eventually we were asked to host a local music radio show on 88.7 FM. It's out of University of St. Francis, WCSF. The show is called The Local Music Bonanza. So I could always give Spencer links if he so desires to find those things. But we're on Facebook and all that stuff. You'll find us.
I feel like I have so many questions and comments because that was like a quintuple sextuple plug, which is perfectly fine.
Yes.
I love it. So first of all, I want to mention, I don't know if there are other Joliets in the country, but we are specifically in the Chicago area. I want to make sure that people are aware of that. Is the show, is there there is a website for it if people want to? Check it out.
The podcast, what the What's Going Down in Downtown J-Town show is on Podbean. You can find it on iTunes Podcast also. But the radio show actually is an actual radio show. It is not recorded. It's all done live. So that's kind of on hold. But we do have a lot of content on Facebook in regards to all the local musicians. So there's still things that you can find. And we post all their live streaming events and stuff like that at the moment. And we almost did, we're recording this on a Friday right now, but we almost did have a live stream that we do. We kind of turned it into a music video show. But it's all done live. So that one's, all the stuff is just on Facebook for all the sites. There's no official website.
That's very cool. And I love the fact that you are promoting and helping out all these musicians, and I'm sure that they're super appreciative of that. And then the bands that you're in, are those originals, covers, a mixture of both?
They're mainly originals, but if we play a show, a lot of times we'll end up playing for the entire night. So obviously we're going to play other songs too, just for the sake of the audience also, so it's not just like the one band all night long. Because I don't know about you, but I like a wide variety of music, and I'm not even going to listen to my favorite band for 4 hours straight.
Yeah.
So we definitely like to change it up and throw some stuff in there, But yeah, they're all mainly original artists, and they all have albums and Facebook pages and websites and all that stuff. A lot of bands are on YouTube.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'll put in all the links that you send me in the episode description. And then your music teacher business, that obviously is all virtual these days.
Yeah.
How does that work?
It is, at first it was kind of nerve-wracking because you just didn't know how it was going to go. You didn't know what people's expectations were. In a lot of ways, it's actually been better. It's been a little nicer. It's definitely more relaxed, obviously, when you're at your own home. Especially for me, all my instruments and all my books are at my disposal then, because I could teach upright bass, electric bass, guitar, ukulele, drums. So to fit all that in one room is a little bit hectic. So, like little the 6x6 cubicles you have at a lessons facility usually are pretty tight as it is. So I guess it's been nice to have access to everything. But you get to kind of, I don't know, you conduct yourself in a different way. It's nice to see, because you can't obviously play at the same time. A lot of the things that I was doing was trying to just play along with my students so that they had something to go off of instead of just dictating things all the time. So I've definitely had to change how I do things, but I think there's been some definite advantages to this. It's I found a way to print out homework assignments and sheet music digitally so I can send them all their things ahead of time. They don't lose it because it's right there on the chat, so that's definitely an advantage. And I also, it's a new option now too, to be able to, if somebody gets sick or someone gets hurt and they can't make it to lessons, that we could do these video chats even when things go back to doing it in person, But nothing beats being able to be in the same room with the student and actually play music with them.
For sure.
I think is definitely, that's how you learn, is playing music with somebody else, So this is great for the meantime. It's been great. But I definitely look forward to being able to do them in person again for sure.
Yeah, there's a lot of pros and cons with this whole quarantining thing. And everybody's situation is different, probably more cons than pros. So, to my audience, if any of you are interested in any one of the things that Tom just talked about, definitely go check out the episode description. Or if you need more info, you can contact me. All of that is also in the episode description. And I know that there are some of you who don't like all the chitter chatter and all this extra stuff, that you just want the words and the definitions, and that's totally cool. I respect that. But, sometimes I like having other points of view, other people to talk about their lives a little bit, and then, just another point of view with these words that we talk about, because my brain is only one tiny little thing, and I like to hear from other people. So with that, I think we're gonna get into the words. You good with that?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, let's do it.
And by the way, I do appreciate you, like what you just said about having other people on and networking and things like that. I think it's very important nowadays. So I just want to say that I appreciate this.
Thank you for appreciating that. Yeah, that's definitely a part of one of the reasons why I like to have guests on. I think it's more interesting for me to talk with other people. It's sometimes fun to do it alone, but like I said, it's good to have another voice on this thing. And even though this podcast isn't big these days, it's still another way to help promote other people. And I feel like helping other people is really one of the most important things that you can do in your life. So, that I'm in whatever form I can, I want to try.
Cheers.
Cheers to that. I have a drink. It's not next to me. It's in the other room, but I will drink it when we're done.
Perfect.
All right. Our first word is biogenesis. Biogenesis. This is a noun from 1871. The development of life from pre-existing life. And then number 2, the synthesis of chemical compounds or structures in the living organism. Compare to the synonym biosynthesis. Biogenesis, that was our word, and that synonym is biosynthesis. Biogenetic is an adjective, and biogenetically is an adverb.
I think they may have taken the biosynthesis thing a little bit to heart lately.
How so?
I don't
Expand
know.
on that, please.
I just watch a lot of YouTube videos, so I always go down rabbit holes of all these conspiracy theories, and just it's basically science fiction, but they call it news, but we all know that it's science fiction. But just like, I always wonder, in a serious note, I guess, about what they will be doing with biogenetics in the future. Will we be cloning people more often? Have they already? Do they plan on splicing us with computer parts? Will they grow different, enhancements?
Right. Well, that actually ties in perfectly to our next word, which is biogenetic law.
Yes.
This is a noun from 1882. I definitely could have had a whole conversation about what you were talking about, but this one was too perfect to pass up. This is the theory of ontogenetic recapitulation. That is not at all what I expected it to say, but I think the biogenetic law should be fairly explanatory.
Recapitulation. That was what they used to describe another word. Can you segue? Can you go to recapitulation real quick? Because I know what it is in music, but I don't know. It's like the recap, obviously.
Yeah, you never really see the word recapitulation all spelled out like that, but maybe maybe I need to break my rule a little bit. I break my rules a little bit from time to time.
All right.
But recapitulation. Well, the first definition just says a concise summary.
Okay.
Which you know what, I'm going to leave it at that. I think that's a perfect definition. A concise summary, but ontogenetic, I'm not entirely sure what that is. So we'll have to wait until we get to the O's to learn more about that.
Well, that's great.
But like you said, I mean, it's a big topic. What was that movie? With a G, Gattaca. Did you ever see Gattaca?
I did not.
It was all about genes, and it was definitely a sci-fi movie. Super interesting. I mean, it's a little dated now, I think, but the world of genes and gene splicing and cloning and all that stuff is super interesting and very weird. And this actually brings up a word that Becky and I had in the previous episode, which is bioethics. It's a whole thing of bioethics.
Just like the do's and the don'ts, what's responsible and what's not.
Yeah.
Did you ever watch a TV show called The Black Mirror?
Oh, yeah, on Netflix, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I was late to the game, but I did sort of binge it over a period of time. I guess you couldn't technically call it a binge, but yes, I did get through all of those. Was there one in particular that you were reminded of?
Well, there was actually the two I always sort of put together in my mind, I suppose, is the one that's like the spoof on Facebook where everyone has to have like a really good rating or you can't get into certain neighborhoods or get certain jobs.
Yes. Yes.
Everyone's Facebook is just open all the time, and then they have the scanners inside their like contacts or like their eyes, I think maybe even, where they can scan Facebook real quick and they're like, who is this person again? Oh yeah, you're Julia. Oh, you have the dog.
Right.
And then there was also the other episode where everybody had hard drives implanted at like the base of their head, like right at the base of their brain, I should say. But you could replay all your memories on television.
Right. There was like a camera in the eye, and you could just send the recording to the TV, so you could like show your kid's first birthday or something on there just straight from your eye.
Yeah.
And it, of course, the way the show is that everything turns to crap, and it's the problems of these technologies, and everything goes terribly wrong.
Yeah, like just the I guess the misuse of what some of these tools are. Instead of using it for advancement for our souls, it's just kind of one more accessory, and it kind of seems to always go haywire. So to me, that's a really kind of a terrifying topic, I guess. I kind of feel like I always have been nervous about that. I guess everybody is. I guess people were nervous about every advancement we've ever had, I suppose. Maybe I'm just being old, I guess, but...
No, I feel the same. I mean, I have very mixed feelings about technology in general. On the one hand, a lot of it can really, really be used for good. And on the other hand, it gets misused. And Black Mirror is a perfect show that it talks about those things and say, hey, look at this thing that we're sort of, it's technically sci-fi, but we're not too far from this future, this possible future, but look at how it could be misused. And, maybe you want to think about not doing it, or just be aware that this is a possibility. So I really think it's a super fascinating look into all that stuff.
I agree.
And yeah, I don't want that stuff to become true necessarily. Or if it does, it's like, maybe just think about how you use it.
Yes, I completely agree. 100%.
All right, so we had a little edit there. Hopefully that was completely invisible, except for the fact that I just said that we had an edit there. We had to pause, but we are going to move on to our next word, which is biogenic. biogenic. It could also be the word biogenous. That's a fun one. This is an adjective from 1903. Produced by living organisms. As in, we've got an example here, biogenic methane formation.
What?
Yeah,
what?
That's how I feel.
What? For my own benefit, okay, well, I have two things. I do request that you repeat what you said, and also, too, I found it interesting. I guess this is embarrassing to say out loud, I suppose, but I never...
trust me, I've said so many embarrassing things on this podcast, don't even worry about it.
Okay. Well, with that being said, I had never, ever noticed the years next to the origin of any of these words. They have the year it was created, right? Do they give credit to the creator of these words, or how does that work? So someone put it into effect, right? Like... How do these words make it into the dictionary and have a year next to them?
So the year is basically it's the first known usage that they have, an actual, what's the word I'm looking for? A written down time that word was used. They have clear evidence that that's when it was used. Sometimes it'll say like circa, so it'll be like around this year. We're not sure exactly, but most of them are a year. For the really old ones, it'll say like 14th century or 15th century or something.
Okay.
But yeah, it's basically the first known usage of that word. It doesn't give credit to who said it, who coined it, anything like that. But there is a website that I've been using every once in a while. I think it's Etym Online, so it's like the first part of the word etymology, and then online.com, which goes into more detail of where the word came from, when it was formed, still as much information as they have.
I have learned something new today, and I appreciate that.
You are welcome. And then was there another comment you had about biogenic?
I just wanted to hear that definition again, because that was insane.
It's short. It's just produced by living organisms. So something that's biogenic is just produced by living organisms. So I guess you could say maybe the carbon dioxide that we exhale after we inhale oxygen would be biogenic. Maybe I'm just reading this incorrectly, but the example that they give is biogenic methane formation. So would that be like the methane that cows fart out? Would that be biogenic?
I hope so. I mean, I think it should be.
I think so too, and I think that this is great because this is the second time that the farts have come up in 2 episodes.
Well, I mean, it's part of life. Everyone farts. You can't get away from it.
Exactly.
If you eat food, you're gonna fart. And if you don't, there's serious repercussions.
Yeah, if you hold it in, it's gonna cause problems. So please, just let out your farts.
Just walk around the corner. No one's gonna say nothing.
Right. Go to the bathroom.
Yeah, that too.
We are going to move on to the word biogeochemical. Wow, there's a lot of information going on in this word. Biogeochemical. It is a noun from 1938 of or relating to the partitioning and cycling of chemical elements and compounds between the living and non-living parts of an ecosystem. I don't totally know what I just read, but I will also tell you that biogeochemistry is a noun.
It's a noun.
Biogeochemistry, but our main word is biogeochemical.
Right,
and that
right,
is
okay.
also a noun. Yeah. So it's it has to do with geology and biology and chemistry. I'm guessing.
Maybe it's because it's the location of where things are, like because everything is like touching. It's not necessarily separated, like how like we walk past animals. I'm getting super strange here. I apologize. But how we walk past animals in the woods per se, this is more like everything is sort of making contact with one another. So maybe there's an actual membrane of sorts that actually divides those things in cells, the dead and the living organism.
Yeah, I think this is basically about the circle of life. I'm just going to read the definition again. I'm sort of rereading it sometimes I need to do that to fully understand it. Of or relating to the partitioning and cycling of chemical elements and compounds between the living and non-living parts of an ecosystem. I mean, that is the circle of life right there. It's,
sure.
Something dies, the fungus will destroy it and break it down. There might be some scavengers that come in and eat parts of it. And so it's and now I lost my place. It's the cycling of the chemicals and the compounds to basically live on to help other creatures of some kind, whether they're animals or fungus or whatever, or parasites or bacteria or insects or anything like that. So that's, I guess, the biogeochemical world.
That makes perfect sense.
Great.
Yay!
We are going to move on to biogeography. It is a noun from 1894, a science that deals with the geographical distribution of animals and plants. Biogeographer is a noun. Biogeographic or biogeographical are adjectives. Both of those last ones are adjectives.
How does that make you feel?
It makes me feel great. I'm so happy that I learned about the science that deals with the geographical distribution of animals and plants. As I told Becky in the last episode, some of these words, there isn't a whole lot to say about them. So we're just going to move on to the next word. I probably should have read these beforehand. I usually do. This is biography, but it's spelled weird. Biography. Okay, it is spelled BIOGRAPHEE.
Whoa.
Biography. Yeah, that's weird. This is a noun from 1841. A person about whom a biography is written. So
that's awesome.
So there's the biographer who writes the biography about the biography. So, it's like there's the interviewer and the interviewee.
Yes.
I never even thought that was a word.
Never in my life.
That's so funny.
How do you differentiate? Is it got to be all context clues, I suppose?
Right, because it sounds the same. You gotta write context, or if you're reading it, it's literally spelled PHEE at the end. So yeah, that's a good one. But next we have a similar word, biographer. This is a noun from 1702, very old. It's just a writer of a biography. Have you read any good biographies or autobiographies?
I'm trying to think. I got really caught up heavily in reading Dark Tower over and over again. So the last time I read a biography was probably quite some time ago.
Yeah, I listened to, I think, one or two audiobooks. I think there were two of them by this sort of famous biographer. One of them was about Einstein, and the other one was about Steve Jobs. And I can't remember the name of the author, but I think he's kind of a famous writer. I definitely don't remember the majority of the information, but they were both really fascinating people. So I would definitely recommend those. I'm not a big reader. If I do read a book, it's usually in an audiobook form just because I can usually do that while I'm doing other things.
Sure.
But podcasts have sort of taken over that role.
Yes, they have. Yes, they have, which is awesome too.
Yes, they have their place.
Yep.
I hope they have their place because we both have podcasts.
Yes. Like, no, please be relevant, please.
Yeah, really. Hopefully all these words will still be relevant. By the way, if you're listening to this in the future, we are in a pandemic, which is why we are doing this virtually. Tom and I are recording this virtually. He's at home. I'm at home. I actually forgot to ask this of Becky, but what's your situation like, how you're recording this? I'm currently sitting on my bed with the book in my lap. Where are you?
I am in my kitchen. Looking out my window, my kitchen window. It's a pretty nice view. I have a handheld recording device that allows me to plug in different microphones. So that's what I'm doing.
Similar to mine. Thank you for actually having the gear. I appreciate that. And
Me too.
I just like to be transparent with the people and give them a little taste of, what's going on the other side of these microphones.
Absolutely.
All right, our next word is biographical. It could also be biographic. This is an adjective from 1714. Number 1, of relating to or constituting biography. Number 2, consisting of biographies, as in a biographical dictionary. That sounds interesting. Number 3, relating to a list briefly identifying persons, as in biographical notes. And then biographically is an adverb.
Good old adverbs. You can't beat an adverb, I tell you.
Adverbs are funny words. It's like I don't know. It's hard to describe. It's like something that's done in the way of this adjective. I don't know. They're like slyly. That's the first one that I can think of. It's done in a sly fashion. That's a good way to describe adverbs, I think.
It's an action. Actionative. Can that be a new word?
Yeah, I think you just coined it. I hope in the next version of the dictionary that word is in there. Actionative.
Yeah, I think that'd be pretty bad to the bone.
Yeah. All right, our next word is the normal word biography, the one that I'm used to seeing. This is a noun from 1683. 1, a usually written history of a person's life. Number 2, biographical writings as a whole. And then number 3, an account of the life of something, as an animal, a coin, or a building. That's not something that I usually think about, is, what's the biography of this object? But everything has a story. People have stories, but objects have stories too. Where did it come from? Where did it go from then to now?
Yeah, that's awesome. I would never have known it would be proper to use that adjective for an inanimate object. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, totally. Next is, we're getting a little bit away from those types of words. Now we are on to biohazard. This is a noun, kind of a timely word right now, from 1967. A biological agent or condition that is a hazard to humans or the environment. Also, a hazard posed by such an agent or condition. Biohazardous is an adjective. I said this is timely. It's not exactly like we're living in a biohazard, but it sort of feels like that, wearing masks and not being able to be near people.
Yeah, it's like all those steampunk kind of goth like settings where like the world goes down and it's disease and pollution everywhere. Like, no, that was supposed to just be a movie. Oh.
Yeah, it's funny. You look at sci-fi movies and TV shows, things that take place in the future, whether they're utopian or dystopian. There's usually masks involved. I was just watching the 3rd season of Westworld, and there were some masks in there, and I was like, "Oh, look at that! I'm watching this during this pandemic, and I don't think masks are gonna go away now that we've got something like this out in the air. I think masks are the future."
Spectacular.
They said children were the future, but I think it's masks.
Yeah.
I know.
Life changes, I guess. We go through changes. I don't know what to think, A lot of the masks that we're all wearing right now don't even really cover things all the way.
Yeah.
I don't
or
know.
People aren't wearing them right.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff. So if it's like they're telling us that that's what we should do and that's what's okay to do, I just am actually more terrified at what they're not really telling us and why that would be something that they would say, yeah, do that. It almost contradicts all other like safety procedures we've ever heard in regards to masks before this. So the whole thing is just weird. So I have a bunch of masks. I wear them. But it's definitely it's a weird feeling for sure.
It is. It's a super weird world that we're living in right now. So enough about that. Let us talk about the word bioidentical. This is an adjective from 1997, having the same molecular structure as a substance produced in the body, as in bioidentical estrogens. So would this be basically making something that the body makes, but making it in a lab? I think that's what it's saying.
I would assume that. What else would it be?
Yeah. It's bioidentical to something that is produced in the body. It's biologically the same.
Yes, or I suppose that could happen naturally too, though, right? Like
sure.
Two different things have the same chemical.
Seems possible, yeah. I don't know enough about chemistry and biology, but yeah, I think we nailed it.
I feel good.
Yeah. So next we have bioinformatics.
Whoa.
This is a noun from 1988. The collection, classification, storage, and analysis of biochemical and biological information using computers, especially as applied to molecular genetics and genomics. Bioinformatic is an adjective. So it's basically taking the information of biology, things that are biological, and putting it into the computer so they can store it, but also classify it and analyze it.
And is that also the kind of thing you think they would use to do like the predictions? Like, for example, what if we took these two elements and put them together, like just based off of the mathematics and like statistics?
Like computer models.
Yeah, like ratios, I guess that would be. I wonder if that would be something they would use that information for, I guess.
Yeah. I think pretty much anything, that has to do with the information of biology is probably considered bioinformatics. So next we have an abbreviation, BIOL, B-I-O-L. It is an abbreviation for biologic, biological, biologist, and biology. So it depends on the context to figure out which word they're talking about. But one of those words, the first word, biologic, is our next word. And then the second word, biological, is the next one after that. So we can learn about a couple of them right now. Biologic could also be biological, actually. This is a noun from 1921. A biological product as a vaccine or blood serum used in medicine.
Well, that's extremely appropriate at the moment.
Yes, we are hoping that they find a vaccine for this coronavirus soon.
Like yesterday.
Yes, like 3 months ago, 8 months ago. And then the other one we have is biological. It says also biologic, so those are kind of interchangeable. But this one is an adjective from 1847. Number 1, of or relating to biology or to life and living processes. Number 2, used in or produced by applied biology. And then number 3, connected by direct genetic relationship rather than by adoption or marriage, as in her biological father. Biologically is an adverb.
Okay.
Yeah, I know some people who were adopted. This is the easiest of the 3 definitions that I can comment on. I know some people who are adopted, and they'll talk about their biological parents. And sometimes they know them, and sometimes they don't. And I don't know. I think that the whole idea of being adopted is something that I have no connection to, obviously, because I'm not adopted to my knowledge. But I think it's such an interesting headspace to get into. Like, what is that like? How does that affect you? Once you find out, how does that affect you going forward? It's such a fast. Actually, I just found out that a couple people I know are adopting a kid, so that's awesome. There's a lot of kids out there who need to be adopted. So I'm hoping that we see a lot more of that going forward.
Yeah, I don't know. I think there would be like almost like this interesting sort of freedom in it a little bit. Does that make any sense? Like a like a freedom of identity somehow, some way. I mean, I guess it could go the other way too, but it might be interesting. Well, I don't know.
Yeah, I think it depends on the person. They could either take that freedom and say, hey, I can make myself whoever I am. And then I think, or yeah, like you said, it could go the other way. And I think a lot of us who are not adopted are just, this is my life. And, you don't have that wrench to sort of turn things around. And I think people who are adopted probably have some identity questions and issues and like, who am I? And, I mean, I deal with that anyway. Who am I? What am I doing in my life? But yeah, it's probably more with people who are adopted.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I guess that would be an interesting question to ask someone who was adopted. I never really thought about that before.
Yeah, I'll have to interview some people. The next one, I think this is a good word for you. The next word is biological clock. This is a noun from 1955. An inherent timing mechanism in a living system that is inferred to exist in order to explain the timing or periodicity of various behaviors and physiological states and processes. And of course, when I said this is appropriate for you, that was a joke.
Well, I am getting old.
That's true. We're all getting old. Do you have a biological clock for anything?
Yes. I really wish I would have, done some of the things that I'm doing now a lot earlier. I guess everyone probably has that sort of thing in the back of their mind, but I was hoping I'd be a lot further along than I am.
Sure, I get it.
So yeah, I definitely feel that pressure of like, I'm old, or like, now like I have tons of gray hair in my beard, so no, like I should be further along in life and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think a lot of us feel that way, and I think this definition is a broader idea than I would have thought, because usually when I think of biological clock, you usually think of women and their biological clock and wanting to get pregnant. I think men have that too to some degree. It's funny, we were walking through a fair a couple of years ago, and there were all these dogs, and my wife Sharon said, I think my biological clock ticks for dogs.
My wife is the same exact way.
Yes. We will have a dog one day, but not for a while. But we are actually on our last word of this episode. It is biological control. 2 words, noun from 1921. Number 1, the reduction in numbers or elimination of pest organisms by interference with their ecology as by the, I have to do a page flip, as by the introduction of parasites or diseases. And number 2, an agent used in biological control.
Well, what kind of an agent? Any agent? Like Agent Smith?
Yeah, that's probably one of the agents. An agent used in biological control. So, yeah, the thing that they are using in biological control could be called biological control. Otherwise, it's the idea of reducing in numbers or the elimination of pest organisms by interference with their ecology. So, yeah, like the what is the Orkin man, the pest control guy? He'll come in and he'll basically perform biological control to get rid of pests of some kind. All right, so those were all the words. I don't think I told you this, but you now have to pick a word of the episode. It could be your favorite, could be your least favorite, it could be the one that you had some sort of connection to. What word would you like? And if you want me to read through them again, I can.
Yes.
Okay. Biogenesis, biogenetic law, biogenic or biogenic, biogeochemical, biogeography, biography with an EE, biographer, biographical, biography, biohazard, bioidentical, bioinformatics, biol, that's the abbreviation, biologic, biological, biological clock, and biological control.
I'd say bioinformatics.
Bioinformatics is the word of the episode. Any particular reason why you picked that one?
I thoroughly enjoy saying bioinformatics over and over again. I think I might do that a lot. Becky may actually become annoyed by about 10 o'clock tonight because I will say it so often. Also, there's a lot of benefit to bioinformatics, and I think, it goes without saying that there's probably a lot of things that we need to pay attention to and research, and that it will always be an ongoing thing. It's not just now, or it's not just through struggles, but to prevent other struggles, and throughout time and history and in the future, there's going to be other ones. So I think bioinformatics will get us through a lot of tough times.
Yeah, and I think bioinformatics has definitely helped our understanding of science in general in a major, major way. So yeah, that's the end of the episode. I urge you all to go listen to Tom's podcast and his various bands. And if you want to learn an instrument of some kind, you could take some virtual lessons from him. And all of that information is in the episode description. Any last words, Tom?
No, I was going to say something about pizza, but I always say something about it, and I guess I just said something about pizza. It's my favorite food of all time. I can't help it. I don't want it to be my favorite food, but I missed it. That was the one thing I missed throughout this whole life break was pizza.
You can't get pizza?
I just didn't. We just chose to cook from home.
Yeah.
And, we did some curbside stuff, but okay, honestly too, the other reason is that Becky cannot stand pizza. So if we're going to get something and eat together, it's not going to be pizza. So
you got to go do that on your own.
Yes, which obviously doesn't happen very often. I had pizza once throughout this entire time.
That's funny because, let's see, I think it was maybe Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday or something. We had pizza probably at least 4 days in a row. And then the next day we were like, oh no, we're all out of pizza. What are we going to do? And then we're like, oh wait, we have a frozen pizza in the freezer. We didn't eat it. We didn't end up eating it, but we were like, we could have pizza again if we really wanted to.
It's the greatest food of all time.
It is. There is a vegan pizza place in the city of Chicago called the Chicago House of Za that we love very much. And every day they have one or two different flavors for their slice of the day. And yesterday they posted a picture of their slice of the day, which is they're going a little bit crazy during this pandemic. They're making really, really weird and interesting pizzas. And their slice yesterday was biscuits and gravy.
What?
Yeah. I am really, really fascinated. So they said that they're going to have it again tomorrow, I think. So I may have to go down there and get a slice of this biscuits and gravy pizza.
Day 5 of the week.
Yes, exactly.
Please be sure to post a picture of said pizza.
Oh, I'll tag you in their post so you can see it.
Yes, please.
Yeah, it doesn't look necessarily what you would think it would look like, but I'm down for some hearty, probably not very healthy for you biscuits and gravy pizza. And now I'm getting hungry, so I should probably go eat some food. Yeah. Well, on that note, I love that phrase. This is the end of the episode. Thank you to all you people who listened through. Yeah, go check out Tom's stuff. And this has been Spencer dispensing information. Goodbye.